It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott's here. Richard Campbell's here. Our last show of 2024. And of course, as befits the last show, Paul's going to take a look back at the biggest stories of the year. That and a lot more coming up next on Windows Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell, episode 912, recorded Wednesday, December 18th, 2024, Unicornification. It's time for Windows Weekly. Hello, all you winners and dozers. This is it, the show you've all been waiting for, the last show of 2024. Introducing our combatants.
Oh, jeez. Finish him.
Yes. It's the end of the year. We got to do something.
The orange trunks and the purple hair, Mr. Paul Thurrott, Thurrott.com.
Hello, Leo.
Hello, Paul. He has been blessed with a brand new computer. We'll talk about that in a moment. Also, Mr. Richard Campbell from runnersradio.com.
Well, hello, friend.
Sir Richard Campbell.
Oh, I don't know about the sir.
He's a lumberjack today.
I am.
However,
very seasonal. Look at you and your proper
the memo.
Clippy. You got the Clippy.
I am wearing I think several year old Microsoft ugly sweater, since we're not able to get the new one ever.
Mm-hmm. Poor Clippy.
Poor Clippy. Clippy's saying happy holidays, and then there's an okay button. Wait.
It looks like you're trying to wish someone happy holidays.
Wait a minute. I'll give you a good shot for the thumbnail.
Yeah. It looks like you're trying to have a good holiday.
Can I help?
Yeah.
May I help you? So, where do you want to talk about your new computer, Paul? Now or later?
Yeah, now's good. This is the thing that's lighting up my face right now.
Nice.
Yeah, I sent him a nuclear-powered.
Yep.
No, he's got the Snapdragon dev kit.
Oh, yeah. So you shipped it. You did
One of the few, the proud, the 200.
Yeah.
I hear that some little bird told me, Richard, you haven't even opened yours yet.
What I love about that is how eagerly we anticipated this thing for like 3 months.
We kept checking the emails.
Yeah.
And then it arrived, you're like,
Well, no, there was something that happened in between where they said, was it Qualcomm said this?
Yeah.
We're not
basically.
We're not going to.
I think
we're going to take it back.
This thing should have been in our hands in
what did
March,
you think we thought we wanted?
Yeah.
But the nice thing is that even though I got mine, and a few of us did, like you and me and Jeff Gerling, they never charged us.
No,
yeah,
I got a refund. Like they had charged me, but money all came back.
I should check. I can't remember.
Yeah,
you and I ordered it roughly in the same time frame.
Yeah,
so.
The day of, I think, pretty much, and then we were happily watching when its ship date and its delivery date were reversed. Right, like those were good. Those were good times. I miss those times.
It's churning like an asthmatic.
Anyway, the idea was at the time the Snapdragon Elite X, the highest performing new Snapdragon in a box that you could. It was fairly inexpensive. What was it, $400, $500? I can't remember.
Like $900.
It was?
Yeah.
Oh boy, I hope I got a refund.
Yeah,
that'll be $900, Mr. Thurrott.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up.
It's not worth $900.
Well,
I guess it's a full computer, right?
If it was, if it worked normally, maybe.
No keyboard, no mouse, no monitor.
Time.
But I did throw in the HDMI dongle.
That's true, and I appreciated that.
Yeah,
that will probably be the longest lived component of this system. No, that's not fair.
It's pretty funny. All right, so you had a little trouble though using it, and I think that that's why this is a story.
I don't actually know a lot about Windows, so it took me. So any other computer on Earth, I could break into pretty easily. Not break into, but reset and get a new version of Windows on it. And this one has defied my every attempt. It's not going to be possible for me to enumerate all of the different ways in which I tried to do this, but from a high level, I was using Windows 11 on ARM. Recovery disks from three different computers, Surface, Restore, Image, Bootable, whatever. The Windows 11 on ARM, downloadable ISO, converted into install media 2 different ways. various forms of media, meaning various USB keys. I tested them on other computers to make sure they booted correctly.
Nice.
I tested on this computer
He's
with
very
every
thorough.
available USB
I presume
port.
you didn't do this first. You did this because it didn't work on the
Right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, it's my fault. I apologize. I said
Nope.
I installed it.
Not
In fact,
you.
everybody
No,
painfully watched me install it, and I just
It is
sent
not
it
your
to you
fault.
without erasing
like I
it
said,
first.
any other computer, no problem.
Yeah.
And
That's what I thought.
This this one brought me to my knees. I don't know. So
That's why I said it. To you,
it
Paul.
also, and I was saying to Leo before the show, he would have seen this. Anyone who's used this even for a few seconds would have noticed, the boot process is a little strange. Like when things are working, it's fine. It's actually very quick. In fact, I'm already at the desktop, by the way. But when it reboots, I have a feeling it was because I had to turn on boot from USB in the menu that's not documented, that's not really firmware or BIOS, but is sort of what it is on this computer. And I found that. I think it was trying to boot off USB, but couldn't. Right. At one point I was like, I'll just replace the SSD, but it's like, no, you have to be able to boot from USB to do that. Like I still can't, I couldn't even do that. So, the only Leo had to give me his PIN so I could just sign in and reset the computer. But now, one of the first things I'm going to do after the show is create recovery media with this computer and try it. And I have a feeling it's not going to work, just based on my experience.
Interesting.
I can't imagine.
Do you think there's not a recovery partition? No, because it was very fast when it reinstalled.
Let's take a look, Leo. I don't know. I don't have a mouse set up yet, but that's never stopped me.
We have no information about why they canceled it.
No, wow, this thing has.
They never said.
No, they never.
I have never seen.
But let's face it, I think the vendor botched the job so badly.
Oh yeah. By the way,
Aero Electronics, did they make it or just sell it to us?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
Anyone who's ever looked at disk management in Windows, whatever version, doesn't matter, but has never seen this. So this is it's a single disk. The C drive is 410 gigabytes.
Yeah.
There are 14 other partitions on this thing.
Oh,
what?
And that does not make any sense.
What?
At all.
Somebody
Now,
had
I'm
an
afraid
idea.
to touch any of these things. Some of them are very small. In fact, 6 or 7 of them are just 1 megabyte big, and they're all, not all of them, but most of them.
I didn't do it.
No, but most of them are labeled OEM partition, but there is a recovery partition, which further annoys me because all I had to do was get in with a stupid recovery disk and I would have hit that thing.
Yeah.
But I couldn't do it, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
Literally,
delete all those partitions and see what happens.
I am not going to do that.
See, here, no fun.
I would.
you're
I
evil
think
for
it'd be
even
an interesting
suggesting
experiment to just wipe the drive.
That's
No,
the
no,
instinct,
no.
right? Is to start from scratch.
No, but you have to be able to
when you
boot
have
the
14
thing.
unknown partitions on there.
No, but if you can't boot off USB,
that's right. How would you do it?
Don't do that.
Until you're bootable off USB. That's right.
I wonder if you've now kind of narrowed down part of the reasons why they discontinued.
Well, the one thing I'll
is it all the
get rid of-
OEM malware? Is that it?
I'll turn off boot. I could turn off BitLocker. I could turn off secure boot.
You know why I sent it to Paul for no charge? I paid the shipping even.
I think you actually owe me money. I'm not 100% sure what the logistics of this
Paul, I'm not going to send you a
transaction are.
bill. It's all yours.
No, it's great. It's all good.
Do you think maybe it's patches? Those little ones are patches for the processor or something?
I've
Like
never seen
microcode
anything like
patches
that in
or-
my life.
No,
so I don't know
but
what to
it's
tell
an
you.
interesting thought, Leo, that they had, like each vendor for the components got their own partition.
Yeah, got their own
kind of
like
thing.
1 megabyte partition.
here's your megabyte.
They're the same size as a
presumably
floppy.
It was shipped before final, right? I mean, this is supposed to have been a developer kit.
So
Yeah.
let's see. It
It was
is
supposed to be.
Let's see where we're at.
Is that where microcode would live? Microcode
I
patches?
said it could be drivers, right?
Or could be drivers, yeah.
Could be, but I mean,
I was only being partly facetious. Like it
No,
really
it's-
does. You could easily have had each OEM have their own partition, so they load their files up. But
Which is a good reason
it's on
not
the
to
same
install
build.
Linux
I mean,
on that thing.
It is the most
Because
recent build. Well,
Linux would not
like I
know.
said, as soon as you can figure out how to boot from USB, do whatever you want to it. After
Yeah,
that,
right.
it doesn't matter.
Right.
So I'm going to keep working on that one, honestly, because you want to, recovery.
Richard, you got now you are obligated to open yours.
this is definitely a Christmas activity, but
Yeah.
the Roadcaster comes first.
So you're not using, part 2 of our post-mortem, or should we say pre-mortem?
Pre-mortem?
Our pre-mortem.
Our
Richard's not using the Rodecaster video that you
not yet, no.
And why not?
Was supposed to be because it was supposed to be this weekend, and we had an outage. We had a big windstorm late Friday night, and by 6 a.m. the power was out, and it stayed out till 3 in the afternoon on Sunday.
Then never mind. It's not anything wrong with the Rodecaster.
No, nothing wrong with it at all. Never got a chance because suddenly it's like I don't have enough electricity to do anything. We
practically had a hurricane here. There was a tornado down in the Santa Cruz area. That was a wild windstorm.
That was the same.
We had
system,
snow
by
flurries.
the way.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah. You had snow? Yours was not
flurries.
the same system.
No.
I can assure you, sir. But it was really heavy rain and the wind. I've never seen wind like that. Knocked out power in Petaluma everywhere but us, I think. It was kind of surrounding us. So I'm not surprised yours went out. Lots of trees there.
We've got an inverter that uses these pack batteries that are part of like the gardening system. So we got blowers and snippers and things like that. Then we have these batteries on. You can all stack them into an inverter, and it's good for a few kilowatts of power.
A minute
or two. And so you have a Rivian, which I thought that was really cool. You could plug in.
Well, this is what we did, right? Is we used the battery packs for most of the day to keep things charged, and I was able to use my laptop and things like that. And then when it was getting low, it's like, let's go for a drive, and literally threw the whole assembly in the back of the truck, plugged it in, went into town to get some food and do other things, and charged it up while we were driving.
Smart,
right? And then charged up the truck at the supercharger, and then came home with a fresh set of batteries all loaded up.
Presumably, town had power.
Yes, town had power.
What happens to a supercharger if the power goes out?
I can imagine they're not very interesting. It's just a plug that doesn't do anything.
So super now, are we?
Well, some of them have solar panels, but I doubt.
Yeah, you're not going to have enough solar for a
There's not enough.
You need acres, right? It's 2.8 acres per megawatt for solar panels. I'm working on my
that's interesting.
Energy geek out, right?
And a typical power plant produces
300 to 1,200 megawatts. Yeah.
So you would need 300 to 1,200 acres of solar panels to equivalent.
It takes up a lot of land.
On the other hand, if you allowed, which unfortunately our local power company does not, because they're privately owned and they're profit hungry. Mm-hmm. If you allowed everybody to put their solar panels on their roof, you might be able to do that. PG&E says you can only put enough solar panels on your roof to power yourself. You cannot compete with us.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. It's a gigawatt, not a megawatt.
Oh, big difference.
Yeah. Only off by 3 orders of magnitude.
Did you see the story? There was a story a few weeks ago. Throw out your black spatulas.
Oh my God! I just read my what you're about to say to my wife. I was like, "Hey, did you hear that story?" Oh, well, listen to the follow-up.
I'm glad I didn't do it because then it turned out there was a multiplication error in the paper.
By an order of magnitude, and by all the important things that were supposedly wrong are all within safe levels now.
Yeah,
and so they're like, "Well, I don't think this changes the outcome of the study in the slightest." It's like, no, I think it does. I think it does.
Unbelievable.
Science.
All right. I'm sorry I interrupted. You go ahead with your early peek at the top stories of the year. Paul Thorpe.
Well, so I've been doing the year-end wrap-up stuff, as one would. What with it being December, but I haven't gotten to this because I keep getting distracted by other things that are related to it. Like as I start writing it, I'm like, oh, this is big enough. It should be a separate article. So I thought I would just kind of go, this is incomplete because it's based on the thing I started writing. I just have the list. So I thought I just grabbed 10 of them. And these are 10 of the things that I kind of collected. After, by the way, I went to, we use Raptive for analytics. And I'm not saying they're terrible, but I'm not sure they're right either. So according to them, the top 2 articles by something, page views, or I guess for them, it would be ad revenue or something, were my reviews respectively of the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra and then the Pixel 8 Pro.
Oh, so,
shoot. Great.
And we just canceled our Android show. Oh my God.
Yeah. So
No,
I have wasted
not
my life
because I think that probably has something to do with virality and somewhere it got posted on YouTube or something. And everything.
Yeah, but it doesn't help me because what I'm really looking for, what I would, objectively call, or I guess none of this is objective, but what I think of is like the biggest.
No, we
stories.
don't want objective. We want subjective. We want your editorial judgment. People don't listen to this show for
facts. We've just established that. By the way, my tip of the week is like throw away your plastic spatulas. But for right now.
So just to reiterate, black plastic cooking
This is what I love about, love is the wrong
fine.
Story. The wrong word. This is what bothers me about that kind of story. The original story, widely publicized. Right. Everyone covered it. It was. I don't watch the news. I'm normal. It's 2024. But if you did, I bet you would have seen it on the news. But the follow-up or the one where they're like, yeah, just kidding. It's all wrong. Yeah, you didn't hear that one. That one did not get wide publicity. That blows my mind, but that's the world we live in. So whatever. The stupidity flows, and then that's the end of that. Anyway.
What is it that Ben Franklin said? The lie travels all the way around the world before the truth can even put its pants on.
Yeah.
I love it.
Or something.
Love it. He was the original plain-spoken...
He got it nailed.
People,
he was talking about a guy where going around the world meant taking a ship.
Yeah, I mean that was all. Yeah. So really, that's the problem is that the first story got all the coverage. The second story, probably nobody even heard about it. That's why we're telling you. That's why you have to subscribe to Windows Weekly. You get the hard-hitting, important information.
I just read an interview with Rick Steves, who had a quote from Thomas Jefferson. And this is exactly the type of thing that would get contorted today into something really positive and nice. And it's not exactly that. It's a little more nuanced, right? He says, travel makes a person wiser if less happy. Right? Like, in other words, like most people would condense that to like, well, you travel, you become a worldly person, you know more, you're wiser. And he's like, no. And this is like, the more you know, the less happy you are.
This is the corollary being ignorance is bliss.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
There you go. Yes, exactly. I'm fascinated by this. Anyway.
This is when Thomas Jefferson, as you pointed out, Richard, had to take a boat to get to France.
Yeah,
and it took months. And
I didn't even do that. He told Ben Franklin to go in his stead. So
I'm not doing it again.
He did go. He did.
Your turn, Ben. I think that it is true that all that is true, but the other thing that makes you happy after you travel is coming home, doesn't it? It makes you appreciate
I hate
your
coming home. It's the worst. I hate everything about this place, and I hate everyone.
You want to be back in Mexico?
No, I like it in both places, but I don't want to be here now.
I appreciate my home when I've traveled and I get back in my own bed. I go, yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, but don't you also have that kind of moment where you realize like nothing has changed at all? And then you have that sort of side realization that like my existence here doesn't matter in the slightest.
Oh,
like,
yeah, well,
I have no impact whatsoever on the planet.
Jefferson,
and
right?
It, like you come back and you're like,
You know what? It's funny because
Paul Thurrott the nihilist. This is great.
What I think about, and this comes up a lot, is I'm thinking right now there's somebody sitting on the Champs-Elysees drinking
having a cup of coffee,
hot chocolate.
Yeah, and you know who that person is? Freaking Mike Elgin, and that guy.
I hate him.
Screw him. No.
On the other hand, his risk of a pigeon pooping, the risk of his pigeon pooping on him is much higher than us. So
good point. Yes. The only place I ever got pooped on by a pigeon was Venice.
There you go.
Listen, I could trace my place in Mexico directly to a social media post he made easily 15 years ago, easily, maybe more, where he was in Barcelona, and it like now. You see these every day and you groan, but he literally is like a cup of coffee, laptop, view,
I got some jamon iberico.
And he said, "This is my office today." And I was like, "Screw you, Elgin."
Damn you, Mike Elgin.
Yeah. So
yeah. Well, that's good. So that's why you're living. That's why
inspirational. It's good.
Yeah.
No, it's good. Yeah. I love Mike, by the way.
We all do.
I'll understand. I'm screwing around here.
Yeah. Actually, this Sunday's TWiT, by the way, we're going to kind of do what you're doing right now.
Okay.
And Richard's going to be on it. Because you've already done the year-end one, so I thought it'd be fun to have Richard on, along with Paris Martineau and some other wonderful people who I'm forgetting. Micah is going to be on, and it's Father Robert Ballas. So we're going to look back at the year for all tech, right? So that'll be a special episode for Sunday. But let's talk about Windows.
Yeah. So like I said, I do these rare and year-end recaps. I also do the rear-end
It's
recaps.
a rear-end recap. I like it.
The rear-end year cap.
We're looking from in the rear-end mirror.
the rear-end mirror cat. No, wait. Anyway, I'm still in the process of writing kind of the main one, which is about, what I perceive to be the top articles. I was going to expand them this year anyway. Each of these is a little longer and goes off in these directions anyway, but I've written these kind of side articles. So I was going to do this one yesterday, and I ended up doing one about hardware and whatever. And I was going to say we're going to get to it, but I actually do. Yeah, we do get to it. All right, we'll get to that later. So what I have so far, and I might be missing a couple, but and these are just my subjectively. This isn't based on hits or views or anything like that. And I probably should do these in reverse order, but I'm not gonna.
Like Letterman do the top 10.
Yeah,
stories
top 10
of the year.
It did work out to be 10. By the way, I didn't shoot for 10. That's how many I had. So the top one was Intel.
Yeah.
I think that's, probably
obvious.
Non-debatable.
Yeah. And this is all from a PC perspective, really, right?
Mostly. Not always, but yeah, mostly.
And to be clear, it's not like Intel has disappeared. It's just like does not look good. The trend is.
A year ago at this time, would we have been saying, "Oh, it's going to be a bad year for Intel"?
No, a year ago, this was going to be the year the PC rebounded. The first 2 quarters of this past year, they grew, right? They were doing great. PC makers were growing. AMD was growing. Qualcomm, always growing. They're humongous. But everything was going great. And then there were warning signs, and then it went, did anyone else hear a toilet flush?
Oh boy.
It got kind of weird there. And, we all know how the spiral ended up. So at least so far. Yeah. I think that they end up
still be an amazing turnaround, right?
In the sense that anything is possible, but you're talking about rolling like a D20 and landing it exactly. So we'll see.
Landing a 20, yeah.
Yeah, landing a 20. We'll see. But this followed a decade plus of strategy mistakes, ignoring mobile, the Microsoft especially begging them. It also follows. This goes back to Paul Ottolini, so we're going to call it 15 years-ish of anti-competitive behavior, basically paying their partners to ignore their competitors and only bundle their
so rather
chips
than
on their
compete,
LDU
you
chips.
did some naughty things that kept your numbers up while still not.
Yeah. If you believe, as the United States does by law, that companies are people, then this is its version of karma. So
it's a bad person.
Yeah, you're a bad person. Yeah. So, okay. But if it weren't for Intel, to me, the biggest thing is this Windows and ARM stuff, the Qualcomm, Snapdragon X, Microsoft improving the underlying system, and then having it all come together at once out of the blue. I'm writing this series on kind of the history of Windows and ARM, which was going to be 3, and I think now it's going to be 4 parts. But the history just of this past year is interesting to me because as recently as last November, we were like, they said this. They keep saying this is the one. We just didn't believe it. We had been waiting on the Nuvia based version of their chips for a couple of years. And I don't know. But then this past year has been a series of indications like this was going to go well. I remember you might remember me saying earlier in the year, I keep waiting for this moment where something's going to betray the reality of this thing. And then they allowed us to go and look at those laptops in New York, and we got to see actual running hardware. And it was like, oh my God, this is actually looks really good. And, and of course, then they launched, and we're not going to talk about recall yet, but I started getting their review units in. And of course, I also bought my own Surface laptop. And that's my favorite laptop by far, still to this day. So that's been, to me, that's great. And for people in this community and for Windows, like this is an unqualified win. It's just excellent. So we'll see what the new year brings. We don't know if there are going to be other competitors in the ARM space next year, but there will be at some point, obviously, or we think there will be.
I'm okay with Windows on ARM in the consumer space. I don't think the enterprise is ready for it yet. I haven't seen an enterprise product yet.
Oh, interesting.
So I understand why you say that, and that's and I'm sure you're right. And I think I made the case. I think it was here on Windows Weekly that, the enterprise is not this giant blob. I mean, obviously different companies, different things, different companies are in different places. But, the iPhone, I think I used the example that got into the enterprise specifically because C-level executives
the iPad and the iPhone were forced on
this.
administrators.
Like, this is going to work.
Yeah. It's the CEO showing up with an iPad saying, I'll be using this. Figure it out.
So I think what this does, though, is it brings Windows up to somewhere close to where the Mac is with the ARM hardware and the reliability, the performance, the battery life, et cetera, et cetera. So the quality, all that stuff. I think there's an audience for that. I mean, we're not all slaves.
I'm sure there's plenty of admins that are getting pressure for folks wanting Snapdragon laptops.
In the field,
we're just not seeing the management space as well.
So, I mean, right. In the trenches, I mean, a couple of things are going to matter. One of them is, well, first of all, the management, I think what you're alluding to is they've gotten rid of some classic, or they're phasing out some classic management interfaces and are not bringing them to ARM.
Yeah. They're never going to arrive. Yeah.
They're never going to arrive. And their answer is, well, use this other newer stuff. And people are like, yeah, that doesn't do everything. It's like, well, yep, we're simplifying here. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
But, and then there are just the people who are in the trenches, the actual employees or workers, whatever, depending on the company. I mean, a lot of companies have these legacy LOB apps that they created in-house on whatever technology stack, and that stuff may not work at all, or at least not efficiently, maybe.
Or needs to recompile something.
Yeah. But newer, a lot of the, obviously if it's web-based, if it's newer, a lot of the stuff is just mobile anyway.
It just work, Yeah,
it may not matter.
And then and .NET's pretty simple, but it has to be compilable, and that's not always the case, right?
Yeah.
So if you're back on if you're on Core, you're fine, but if you're on the original framework, you're not.
Right. No, I wouldn't even try that. I would imagine. I mean, it's there. I know it's in there, but it must be terrible. But the newer stuff is great. I mean, and Richard covers this more than anybody, really. But I mean, the biggest thing every year with .NET today, which is the core version he was referring to, is the performance, double-digit performance improvements across the board every year. It's crazy. I mean, so every version is dramatically better than the last. And the last one was pretty damn good.
Yeah. No, no coding changes. Just use the new version. Non-trivial performance improvement over and over again.
Yep. Yeah, the legacy stuff, you got to do some, they have migration utilities and stuff, and that's kind of hit or miss, and, that's nobody's fault, but whatever. Technology moves on. The other big kind of well, actually, there are a couple more that are big global stories. Antitrust, right? This is the year Antitrust really started to hit back at big tech across the globe, which is fascinating to me. We'll see how that changes in the year, obviously, but and it's been a mixed bag for sure. You get Epic winning against Google, losing against Apple, basically, or the EU especially going after every company, basically, that is based in the United States, is what it feels like. So there's a lot of that going on. I think we let big tech have kind of a pass for too long. And then, Microsoft was... they weren't part of that group of 5 or whatever the number was, depending on the year ever, right? Which always annoyed them. And so it's like, you're back in the spotlight now. How does it feel?
Congratulations.
Congrats.
You get an investigation and you get an investigation.
Speaking of comebacks, you're back, baby. Good for you. Dark Satcher, gonna love that. AI, I don't even know. We don't have enough time to go through this whole thing, but it is fascinating to me. We're going to talk about Copilot later in the show. Just Copilot, right? Mm-hmm. Dear God, is this thing changed to 12 months? And I'm not talking about icons on a taskbar. I'm talking about
the big thing we were saying at the beginning of the year is 2024 was supposed to be the year that, okay, let's go make money with this.
I know.
And other than getting investment, show me the money.
It was the year, let's play whack-a-mole with it and see if anything clicks. And I'm not sure that anything did.
It's turned in really the year of hurling stuff at the wall.
Yep. Yeah, well, we'll talk about the Copilot stuff, like I said, but for me, I don't remember what it was back in, August, July, something like that. I wrote this editorial. It was basically, look, I'm not paying for AI. Mm-hmm. I will pay for things that make me more productive and whatever tools and things. I will pay for Microsoft 365, for example, but I'm not paying this other thing. That should be in there. And it is not fascinating to me, but it is interesting because I think a lot of Microsoft's business customers had the same reaction, which was like, look, we get it. We're paying you a lot of money every month and everything. And now you want to charge us more for this other stuff?
Yeah.
No. So I think they're starting to scale back that. We'll get into this a little bit more because it's fascinating, and maybe Richard might know more than I do about this right now, about the rationale behind some of these changes, especially to Microsoft 365 Copilot. But
yeah. Well, I wonder if this was the play that Google could have made this year, was to say, hey, if you move over to Google Workspaces, Gemini's for free.
Yeah. So they did do that for some groups of customers, not business customers that I know of this year. Like if you bought a Pixel, like you did, you got a year, I believe, or at least I did. I assume you did, of Google One 2 terabyte, whatever the thing's called, where you get all the Gemini, whatever that's called, Gemini Advanced or Gemini, whatever it's called. So that gives you a chance to kind of play around with that stuff. I've used it almost not at all. I don't really use it that much. I just don't care.
It primarily is a distraction for me trying to do something, and it's trying to introduce itself to me.
There is a lot of, this was the year of the pink and purple animation with the sparkles. It doesn't matter which one you're using. It's like, boo, 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 hey, we're here.
The unicornification of software. Like,
yep. It's a good look. It looks especially good in the enterprise. And I mentioned, Recall. There's so many things that are fascinating about Recall to me, but it launched with such controversy, with such anger and hatred and fear and an almost demand that Microsoft was going to kill this thing. It's stupid and no one wants it, and then it came out and it was like, I guess it's fine. It's like, it just got, it's like, what, I don't know, what were we arguing about before?
Wow.
It's
the thing that's interesting to me is that it's a consumer product only. Like, this is not how Microsoft does things.
No. And I know.
And I have to wonder if the enterprise wouldn't have been happier with it, actually, because
just staying
from an administrator's perspective,
right,
a tool that I can use in discovery for harassment and things like this, like, it's a big deal.
Yep.
Right. Like, there is a case for it in the enterprise. So why didn't they do it?
Right.
The best thought I had is because they didn't want to use it themselves.
Oh, that's amazing. I was going to say because that would have required a lot more time, and they wanted to get something out the door. Yep. Immediately.
Well, and to be clear, the machines that they wanted to run it on were consumer devices.
And this is tied into the Copilot stuff we're going to talk to later. There's sort of an underlying security issue here where they want to make sure they get that stuff right, especially for businesses. And I just don't think Recall would have passed that bar for a long, long time. It would have just taken too much work to fold it into the whole system policy and management and so forth. But the way they did it was a little bit reminiscent to me of Windows Phone 7, where they did at that time they were just trying to be Apple. We're going to go after consumers first. Hey, it worked for them. I think ignoring your biggest market is a mistake, but also being antagonistic to that market is an even bigger mistake. And that was the thing they were literally saying at the time was, we're not even going to let these people turn it off. If an individual has one of your computers and they want to turn this thing on, they can do it. That's their business. And it's like, no, actually, that's our business, Microsoft. Yep. Interesting turn of phrase. So I think they've arrived at the place they should have been at when they announced it. They obviously were rushing it to market. They were not even going to test this thing, right, until they put it out to the public, because they were trying to justify an upgrade to these new computers that used local AI and made sense.
I think that was the original driver, and it just sort of
That's everything else kind of fell by the wayside. So I don't think I have it in the top 10 here, but one of the other big stories this past year, it must be in here somewhere. No, do I have it here? No, maybe I don't. I do. I'm sorry. It's the Microsoft security thing. So it's all AI. It's all AI. What's that? Oh no, it's all security. We're all security. No, we're all security. So I think that's the shift. You can see from first half of the year, second half of the year. Yes, we're still doing AI. Yes, super important. Dear God, we're never going to stop with that. But they're actually looking at the security stuff. And,
I got to tell you, I interviewed a lot of Microsoft people, and there's almost no conversation that doesn't bump against secure initiative, future initiative all the time. Like, it's I don't know that it's visible to the public so much as it's certainly visible to the Microsoft employees.
Yeah, you don't want to be the guy that is the cause of a Bloomberg headline involving a Fortune 50 company that was hacked because you did something stupid or whatever it is.
Well, and then a company that came out and said, "Don't worry, we got this."
Yeah, right. I mean, that's the thing. Well, so security was number 9, but the Microsoft security. Remember, this was I know not you, Rich. I know you remember, but listeners or whatever remember that this company was hacked and didn't talk about it a lot, and still, by the way, is not completely disclosed what happened.
And that's not the CrowdStrike hack that you're so wound
No,
up
this is
about.
the Microsoft infrastructure hack that we don't have the entire story on. Yeah. I didn't write about this, and I don't think we discussed it on the show, but about a week ago, there was a story that came out from Amazon about a year ago, signed a deal for billions of dollars they were going to adopt Microsoft 365 across their infrastructure for all of their workers, in the offices. Mm-hmm. And that's on pause. It's not that it's not happening, but that incident and then CrowdStrike, they were like, we need to know more about this, and we need to know what you're doing. And they were actually fairly complimentary to Microsoft. If you can find this article, you can read it. Mm-hmm. But the guy in charge of Amazon operations was just like, "Look, that put the brakes on there. I mean, we need to make sure that our stuff is safe." So I think Microsoft has gotten to the point now where Amazon feels fine about it. But
I think the other subtext of that to Midnight Blizzard was it was a nation state. I suspect government assets were involved, and those folks tend to be very closed mouth. So Microsoft's only way was to be very closed mouth with that.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. It's not really up to
we
down.
We often use the word businesses to describe this part of the business. Microsoft uses the term commercial. It's governments, educational institutions, businesses of all sizes, whatever other organizations.
When the nation state, remember the big thing they said about Midnight Blizzard was nation state involvement, which the subtext of that is federal agencies are now involved because it was a nation state, right? And they set the terms on a lot of that stuff. So, and you think we haven't heard much in the public? You should see a person like me poking at the various teams saying, "Hey, you want to talk about this?" It's like no, I don't.
Hey,
they didn't want to talk
about stray VMs out in the world. You want to talk about?
Yeah, they really don't want to talk about it.
No, I don't.
And that to me says they've been given instructions from higher up that thou shalt not speak of this.
Interesting.
Now, there's another side of this, and I've dealt with this dealing with real classified stuff where the second stage past, I don't want to talk about this, is please don't talk to me about this anymore. I need to report every time anyone asks me about it.
Yes.
Right. That's a very normal thing when I'm dealing with military and government folks. It's like, here's how serious we are. I need to report that you asked me that question. The third step, by the way,
is your door gets a knock. Then you start having difficult conversations.
You get an interview. Yeah. Why are you asking this?
That could definitely be it. I
don't think they come that heavy into the tech giants for the most part, but I think that the senior level of tech folks are very aware and say, and pass down, really don't talk about this.
Right.
We got to say the Activision story to me is the greatest non-story of them all. This time last year, my friend,
I know
it's like next year's going to be Activision, man.
It was a nonstop karaoke party. It was going to be awesome.
It stopped even being fun teasing you about it. That's how badly this went.
No, even to this day, I'm not happy about it. It's still nothing. It's just Yep. And this is another example of like Microsoft in this case, or in the Xbox org, when they talk, they seem to think that they're making progress and things are going great. And then we've done this and this and this. And I'm like, I don't know if you think that's what we think, because that's not how it looks to us. Anyway, do you remember a lot of stuff tied to this?
Do you remember Queen Elizabeth using the term annus horribles?
Yeah, of course I do. Yes, after the castle burned down and
after
Princess Diana
dying. Yeah. Most of the folks I know in gaming, 2024 was annus horribilis.
Right, and so I was just going to say tied to this were the layoffs, the studio closures.
Yes.
And then the subscription price hike thing, which is an ongoing issue still to this day. YouTube TV just raised. YouTube TV, when it came out the gate, I don't remember how many years ago, was $37 a month, and it is $82 a month to start now.
Wow.
That's how big it's gotten. Now, it's not their fault. They're not ripping people off. They're getting the same treatment that cable TV networks got, which was that the big content creators or content makers are coming and saying, "Oh, did you want the popular Disney Channel? Well, you need the 117 of the pieces of cruft, and you're going to pay for that too." So I'd like to see something change. I don't know that Google has the power, honestly, to do anything about this. The one advantage that they have, the one advantage that all of these or most of these services have, is at least you can walk away when you want to. You know, you're not stuck on it like you are with cable. But subscription price hikes for Game Pass across the board, and then the big one before the Activision games, or before Call of Duty, I guess, started hitting the service, disappeared. They just got rid of it. Like they got rid of that day one perk that most people were getting. So that's kind of tough. The one thing I don't kind of agree with when it comes to the community is the overall strategy. This is not new, but this year it came to a real head. And Microsoft didn't help matters by making an advertisement for TV and I think a couple of them now where it's like, this is an Xbox and this is an Xbox. Like one of them was a Sony PlayStation. It's like, guys, get stuck. You're just poking the bear. What are you doing? And that is tied to them not having what I believe to be like ARM-based consoles ready, and the hardware platform isn't quite there yet, or whatever it is. But we're in a weird holding pattern, like the end of Die Hard 2. And the fear is they're going to run out of gas and crash into the ground. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I thought this was going to be celebratory, and this year has not been great.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've had the usual sets of titles released. There's been an update to World of Warcraft. There's, the new Call of Duty, but there's been no new marquee anything. Yeah, and maybe it was a little optimistic to say that they would, because it takes a year to get your hands around a beast this large, much less to activate some teams. And at the same time, they were clearly, the bean counters have arrived and squeezed everything.
This probably is not the central issue, but I think one of the issues is that Activision as an organization was never going to allow their games to be on these subscription services. Yeah. They had a really healthy market of several marquee titles every year or every so often, big, and they didn't see any reason to change that. And they certainly didn't see any reason to architect the games in such a way that it would make it easier to do that. So that might've been part of it. I don't know, but Call of Duty, the new one, seems like it's worked out great. It's I don't know money wise, because you never will. They'll never say that. But as far as revenues, whatever, but it's certainly very popular. By some metrics, the most popular one they've done, at least by players or whatever.
And I would argue that Microsoft's acquisition spree makes sense in the context of what you just described. That as they started going serious on Game Pass, and there was going to be subscriptions for all your subscription was going to cover all these things. They knew they were going to get squeezed in renewals, and so they tried to buy as much as possible so that they could try and keep the price under control, and then they didn't anyway, because why not take the money?
Yeah, spend all this money, not just on Activision, but these other studios they purchased, and then only sell that stuff on the Xbox. I mean, the math doesn't work, So, but this is not a chicken egg thing. They bought those studios knowing that this was where they were going. This is not new. This is the thing I was trying to say earlier. People are like, wait a minute, are you trying to tell me like the PC is not an Xbox? It's like, well, yeah, I mean, I play Xbox pretty exclusively on the PC, actually literally exclusively on the PC. And I'm not saying the PC is an Xbox. So the term is kind of weird, but the platform is cross-platform. So sorry. Sorry if that bothers you, I guess. I don't know. And thank God for Xbox, because they make Windows look a little better by comparison.
I mean, the Xbox itself didn't, it's not like they had a bad update or anything. Like Xbox has just been Xbox. It was last year that you were really making fun of the launcher, right? Like the launcher changed a bunch of times on Xbox, and not necessarily for the better. It was almost like, which in-turn version should we use this time? Right.
This is a problem they had run into on the Xbox One, and actually on the Xbox 360. But I remember in the Xbox One, they literally hit a wall where there was nothing they could do to make it run faster. It was as fast as it was ever going to be. So the only thing that was left was to reduce the number of steps it took to get something done. And it's like, guys, you failed. Like you're just, if this is what we're talking about.
No, but that core statement, there's nothing we can do to go faster, means you're wrong.
You failed. Yeah.
You got it.
So Windows 11, I don't know what to say anymore. I think I could be wrong, but I think Richard coming on the show coincided with me kind of saying, hey, I think there were 3 versions of OneDrive for some reason. And that situation persisted for a year.
Yeah.
And then they did all the Copilot moving around the UI and changing what it was and changing the app and blah, blah, blah. And that's still going on to this day. Windows is in a tough place. It's been that way for a long time. It's not the center of the company. Everyone knows that. But it also doesn't really fit into this world that Microsoft is part of now. It didn't fit in. It doesn't fit into cloud computing per se. Certainly not in a central way. And it doesn't fit into AI per se. I think the only role that makes any sense at all, other than some kind of niche NPU speed up, I don't know, video.
But you understand that Windows has not figured out how to update itself yet. Since the change, right? Since the Locust went to cloud,
right?
They tried in Windows 10 with the continuous
square
update.
and the round hole thing. They just can't. They're trying, but they can't.
But
so, Microsoft.
But you can't think in terms of Windows 11 was a plan, because we know it wasn't, right? They needed a response to the Mac, so they did the thing. But now there's
Windows 11 is the perfect Microsoft product.
Yeah,
there's a technical problem that they want to solve. And they have an idea, and it's good until the implementation did not work, but it's a good idea. And that problem is we have this legacy software code that is writing all over memory, that's causing security problems. What if we put it in a container, we segregate it from the rest of the OS, we already have this sandboxing occurring with all our modern apps, and then we'll take this legacy thing forward, it'll be good. And that thing was called Windows 10X. And it didn't work.
Nope.
So what we got was they stripped out the awesome technical bit and they just gave us the Fisher-Price UI part and they called it Windows 11.
Right.
And it was like, guys, come on. And they shipped it in a horribly incomplete state. It didn't even have everything they talked about just 3 months earlier. It took a year for that to happen. And I would say it wasn't until this past release when they did that big architecture change under the covers.
Well, that was the argument
that I would call
24H2 is the first time they've tried to pass a new OS as a patch.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the reality, right?
Yes. And So, but again, the problem is, I keep talking about this now. This has been a recent thing for me, although I think this has been the case for a long time. There's those two sides of the Windows team, for lack of a better term. The architects in the white robes up on Mount Olympus, dictating from on high how things shall work. And
there are
the
15
idiots that's like throwing features at it, and they have no idea. They're doing drive-bys. And they have no idea what they're doing. And every month they're introducing new features, but they're also introducing problems. We're going to go into the new year with the File Explorer menu that goes off the top of the screen. Guys, I could fix that. I mean, I don't understand. I will never understand. I don't really even care how it happened, but I don't understand how you can't fix that. We're not talking about an architectural change here. We're talking about a menu. Right. But somehow this is beyond them. So they were going to throw a recall out without testing it, but this thing,
So we know they have feature teams. So the real question is, do they have an overall vision team these days?
I don't think they do.
Yeah,
I don't think they do.
The Gabe Ald or the,
these people have all moved on.
Yeah.
The what?
So I don't know what to tell you.
It's
Gabe Ald. No, Gabe Ald used to run the.
You used to run the insiders. That very carefully. The Gabe Ald.
Gabe Ald gave it all.
Gabe Ald.
We miss him greatly.
Because otherwise it sounded like they have gay balls. And I don't.
Gay balls.
I don't know if that's
I
really.
am not saying that.
I think you're the only one who thought that, Leo. Pretty sure
nothing
you're
wrong
the only
with
one.
that.
Yeah.
It just caught my ear. I'm sorry. I just wanted to clarify.
The only software company that makes Microsoft look good, Sonos. Nice job, guys. That was good.
The worst. That as somebody with a bad software gear.
So the thing I remember most about this, other than they didn't fire their CEO somehow, is I was using an iPhone at the time, so I didn't really run into this problem. I hated the old Sonos app. The one that people are nostalgic for still was a piece of crap. It was horrible. So I would just use whatever app I wanted to use, and I use AirPlay, and it just works with whatever speakers you have. It's fine. So when all this broke down, I was like, oh, I should go look at this app. And the first time I was going to say it was beautiful looking, but actually it wasn't, because the first time I tried to run it on the web and on mobile, only half the UI would come up, like it wouldn't load properly. And I was like, okay, I can see there might be a problem with this. And then a couple of days later, I finally got into it. And then I was like, okay, actually, this is a really nice looking app that does not work in the slightest and didn't have basic music player features that, once again, I hate to keep saying this, I could write, like change the order of songs in a playlist. You're playing songs right now and you want to move a song up or down or take it out or whatever, or add a song. That stuff was not there. This is not AI or like high-end functionality. They shipped this piece of junk. They didn't leave the other one in market. I don't know. It was the stupidest. Anyway, whatever. Apparently, their new soundbar is pretty good, but I'll never find out because I will never buy anything with the word Sonos on it ever again. Those guys can go screw themselves. I am disgusted by how they handled this. It's gross.
It's a remarkable
even
bot.
Microsoft has more credibility than just responding to things. It's terrible. We talked about security already. I mean, just the two big events. I love that at Ignite, they referred to the CrowdStrike thing as the incident. That is so beautiful. That to me is the name of like a paperback thriller you buy at the airport because you're out of stuff to read. And you're like, oh, maybe this is pretty good. And then you find out it's about computer nerds. It's kind of disappointing, but you're stuck on a flight. And then the 10th one is passkeys. And passkeys are sort of like PWAs in the sense that I feel like they're kind of flying under the radar. And there's all these people that really doubt it's ever going to work or take off or whatever it is. But passkeys are literally the future and I would say present of authentication for online identities. And now that there is a formal specification for making them portable and work across platforms, it's going to explode. And even Windows is going to do it,
Does Windows not support passkeys?
Windows
login.
Windows and the Microsoft account both sort of support passkeys is the way I would say it. In the shipping version of Windows 11 today, there's nothing there you can do with it. You just get one automatically when you sign in with a Microsoft account. Nice. But in the future, you'll be able to associate passkeys with that on your computer, move them onto your phone, move them around however you want. So third-party password managers are already doing this. Google is doing it in Chrome and whatever their system is called. Everyone's doing it. The Apple Passwords is signed on for this. They're going to.
The biggest problem you got with passkeys right now is you go to the wrong website, like an Amazon site, and Amazon's going to ask you to set up a passkey. The browser's going to ask you to set up a passkey. Your password manager is going to ask you to set up a passkey. And if you're really lucky, Windows is going to ask too.
And there's a missing. It's not a missing link, but there's something broken in the chain there where you do have a passkey and you can't always get to it for some reason, even though you're using that browser maybe or that operating system or whatever it is. Like this happens to me a lot, and it happens to me the most with Google accounts. Although I have to say, I don't know why, but the last week or so I just did it on this computer. On this computer, I'm using Brave. I brought the browser up and I had to sign into my Google account because I have Gmail and Google Calendar set up in there. And it got the passkey that was in Brave that, is synced across the world or whatever. And I didn't have to do anything. It was great. But on a lot of computers, people say, okay, I want to use a passkey. And it throws up a QR code. I'm like, I can't scan a QR code with my computer, idiot. And then, so you're like, okay, I'll try my phone, and the phone load, and it's like, no, that's not going to work. And then like, can I just type in my password? Yeah, you can type in your password, you freaking jerk. And by the way, then you're going to need your authenticator app. And then you realize in a way how ponderous that is, because once you get used to passkeys, that thing that people were complaining about with 2FA and authenticator apps suddenly is true to me. Like now I'm used to passkeys and I love when they work. But right now there's still, so passkeys got a way, way better this year. And it was because of companies like Dashlane, 1Password, Bitwarden, Proton, that all implemented portable passkeys, for lack of a better term, right? The ability to use these things everywhere. So once you get that thing into the password manager, it doesn't matter what device you're on, it's there. It's nice. But definitely check out my Galaxy S24 Ultra review. I guess it was big stuff. I don't know why.
Yeah. Richard, we should steal this list for Sunday, I think. This is a good list.
Yeah. I actually was making notes from it. So
I think what I'm going to do on Sunday's TWiT, which is our year-end recap, and it's not just obviously PC news, but I think many of these stories will be in there. Divide up month by month, so we'll have a.
CrowdStrike and the antitrust stuff.
CrowdStrike's in there for sure.
It's worldwide, everything.
Yeah. And I hear there was an election in November. I don't know. We'll have
crazy talk.
Look that up.
Yeah, Mexico elected a woman president, which was just a beautiful thing for democracy. I'd love to see that happen. What did we do again? I can't remember. Was this something different?
We're going to pause here. That was a great rundown, by the way. Thank you, Paul. I really, it's reminded me what a crappy year this was.
It was nice. Yes. I love reminding myself in case I start feeling good about myself.
Just
it's like,
in case.
Just here's what you did. Here's how you spent your time this year.
To paraphrase Thomas Jefferson.
Yes.
Looking back at the year makes you wiser and feel.
The more time that goes by, the worse it is.
Awful.
Wait, what?
Yeah. We will come back, talk about Windows and a lot more in just a bit. You're watching Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott, Richard Campbell, as always, a must watch. This is the last show of the year. And Chris Capicella doesn't work at Microsoft anymore. So there.
Should have gone and found him anyway.
You should have, just to say, okay, Chris,
who knows what he'd say now?
Now that you don't work there.
I don't think he can.
He's still sure.
I tried to get a special guest for this one, by the way, and it just didn't work. But maybe
she was
maybe
washing her hair.
I was going in a completely different direction, actually.
That's okay. All we really need is Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell. That makes this show. I honestly believe that. We have a great year ahead planned for you starting. So what's next week for Windows Weekly will be a best of. So we've taken some of the stories that you just talked about, and actually we've got the clips from those episodes, and we'll show you that. Kevin King's been working hard on that. Thank you, Kevin, for doing that. The following week is New Year's Day. So Christmas Day is the best of. New Year's Day, I'm not going to make you guys work because you'll be hungover like crazy.
So I'm going to be in pain that day.
In pain instead of Pennsylvania. So we will do.
I'll be back up on the coast, so I suspect I'll have no power. That's a 50-50
Yeah.
shot.
Wow. Well, we'll just give you a day off. So you got 3 weeks after this. You don't have to do a show, and we'll be back January 8th with the next episode, the brand new episode of
what? We're still going to do this? Okay.
What? No, actually, there's some very good news.
Finally.
I've been complaining about advertisers. For some reason, they just woke up this week and they've all come in at once.
Oh, that's great.
So what we thought we were going to have to do some cutbacks, to be honest, for the new year, and we don't have to. That's the good news.
Okay.
Wow.
Also, the club woke up and we have a bunch of new members. Welcome.
Nice.
So thanks to new club TWiT members and advertisers returning, many of the names you know already, we are very happy to say I will not be working at McDonald's next week.
Like a certain healthcare shooter.
Yeah.
Nice.
What's funny is my first job was working at McDonald's. And to this day, whenever I see McDonald's with a help wanted sign, I make a note of it in my mind. I
am totally qualified for this.
I'm ready.
I worked at Burger King, and this is like McDonald's had nuggets, but no one else had anything like that. And we used to cut everything we had up into nuggets. So we'd make like fish nuggets, veal nuggets. Remember they used to make veal sandwiches, and then also chicken nuggets out of it. They had a chicken loaf or something. I don't know what the hell it was.
So did they flame broil those burgers to order?
Yeah, we used to buy them from the company to have them for like 4th of July cookouts. Those hamburgers are great.
Oh, good.
They're really good. Like the Whopper. Yeah.
Oh, now I want a Whopper Jr. That's my favorite.
Yeah. No, cheese. those were, and I'm sure still are, but those are.
I'll be right back. No, we got a show to do, and I am here for the duration. Our show today brought to you by a wonderful sponsor who will also be rejoining us in 2025. I'm happy to say US Cloud. And it's a sponsor you ought to know about. I have to say, when they first came to us and I met with them and I talked to them, I said, guys, I've never heard of you. And they said, that's why we want to buy some ads, because we are the #1 Microsoft Unified Support replacement. But a lot of people like you, Leo, say, who? US Cloud. I'm going to say it again. The #1 Microsoft Unified Support replacement, a global leader, I would say the global leader in third-party Microsoft enterprise support. They are supporting 50 of the Fortune 500. And there's a reason There are a number of reasons, but the number one reason, switching to U.S. cloud could save your business 30 to 50% on a true comparable replacement for Microsoft unified support. Now, I have to say comparable. Yeah, it's good as, it's better. It's better. It's faster. It's better. U.S. Cloud supports the entire Microsoft stack 24/7, 365 days a year. They respond faster than Microsoft, and they resolve tickets quicker than Microsoft for clients all around the world. And you're going to always talk to a real human engineer based in the U.S. And I asked him, I said, well, so what's the deal with your people? Where do you get them? They said, well, we recruit and we offer great benefits, great salaries. That's why we have expert level engineers working for us with an average of 14.9 years experience. And that's for break fix or DSE. So they're 100% domestic, the best engineers in the business. Your data never leaves the U.S. Oh, there's one other thing Microsoft does not do. U.S. Cloud offers financially backed SLAs on response time. They guarantee it. And initial ticket responses average under 4 minutes. Man, it's nice when you can get somebody on the line, smart, competent, can help you, when everything's falling apart. That's when you need it. And all of this for less. In 2023, 94% of U.S. Cloud's clients reported saving 1/3 or more when switching from Microsoft Unified Support to U.S. Cloud. So from Fortune 500 companies to large health systems to major financial institutions, yes, even federal agencies, U.S. Cloud ensures that vital Microsoft systems are working for over 6 million users globally every single day. And I'm talking big brands like U.S. Cloud supports Caterpillar. They support HP. Aflac uses U.S. Cloud. Dun & Bradstreet, Under Armour, KeyBank, even the IT folks at Gartner have chosen U.S. Cloud for their Microsoft support needs. That should tell you something. We have a great quote from a director of information technologies who shall remain nameless. But boy, this was, I saw this interview and I thought, wow, can we use that? He said, and within an hour, U.S. Cloud responded with, I want to say 4 engineers. Not only did they bring the right guys to the call, they brought the cavalry. I just felt like, wow, that was amazing. That was unlike anything I had experienced with Microsoft in my 8 years of being with Premier. We made the right choice with the U.S. Cloud. And of course, fully compliant. When it comes to compliance, no one gets it better than U.S. Cloud. They're ISO, GDPR, ESG compliant. For U.S. Cloud, these are more than just, regulatory requirements. This is important to the company. They're strategic imperatives that drive operational efficiency, legal compliance, risk management, even corporate reputation. These standards are important to U.S. Cloud because they foster trust and loyalty among their customers and stakeholders. They attract investment. They ensure long-term sustainability and success in a global market. That's why U.S. Cloud's the best. I came away so impressed. I want you to go right now to uscloud.com. Book a call with them. I think you'll be impressed too. Find out how much you can save and how much better their support is. That's uscloud.com to book a call today and get faster Microsoft support for less. It's better too. I hope now you know the name US Cloud. You'll remember the name and you'll visit uscloud.com. We thank them so much for supporting the show, and we thank you for supporting the show. If they ask you, you say, oh, yeah. Paul, I saw it on Windows Weekly, the Paul and Richard guy. They're great. If they say it's good, it's got to be good. Sure.
Nice.
Yeah, just help us out a little.
Those guys.
Those guys. I saw it on Those Guys show. All right. Hey, I wanted to ask you a question.
Yes.
That's unrelated to your coming topics, but it is Windows related. Yesterday, a week ago, Steve Gibson had said, Windows 11 doesn't support TPM 2.0.
It requires TPM.
It requires it, he said. I'm sorry, vice versa. Will not support 1.2. You have to have TPM 2.0.
No.
Well, and then he corrected it last week, or yesterday, I should say. He said, okay, technically Microsoft says, yes, if you want to use Windows 11, you should have TPM 2, but it will you can still install it, right? Yeah. And all they're saying is, as they've said before, we can't guarantee support if you're using an earlier version.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's right.
They came out the gate with Windows 11 saying you need to have TPM 2. And then we all pushed on need to have, and it's like
need is a strong word. Want to have,
Yeah.
maybe.
So that's what happened because Steve joined the push a week
there you
ago.
go.
But yesterday he amended it to say, well, it turns out it'll still work.
Yeah.
Do you have to
All
jump
this-
through hoops though to install it without TPM2?
Nope.
No.
No.
Okay. So just install.
All you got to do is spend $9.99 in the Windows 11 Field Guide, and you're good
It's
to
all
go.
in there.
Everything you need. to know.
Leanpub.com.
It's not hard, but
Okay, good. Thank you for that. I just wanted to clarify. Appreciate it.
there's like news happening as we're doing the show, so I put some stuff in.
What's the news?
We'll get to it. It's
Okay.
well, Copilot. GitHub Copilot is free in Visual Studio Code now, apparently. So
And worth
I gotta
every
look-
penny.
it's worth it. Yes. Well, actually, so I think I told the story last week or whenever that I had used Anthropic Cloud in my case to have it create a C# class that I had created myself manually, and it came back with the same code, and I was like, nice, like it's kind of was a nice proof point. But
I'm as smart as an AI.
I am very exactly. I can hallucinate with the best of them, but they. Well, I want to use it on my my .NET Pad project. I want to, maybe I could use it to get over some humps. So this is very interesting to me. I'm definitely going to take a look at this.
Increasingly so, I have to say. The AI is proving to be really
I think the
valuable
pair
for a
programmer
lot of
stuff
things.
is. I think it's good.
Yeah.
I think it's a good use of AI.
Steve
It's
was
nice,
saying that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's coming around. He was a little skeptical.
Do they have AI on Windows 2000? I can't remember.
I'm sorry. He's Windows 7 now, my friend.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Sorry.
He is up to date with the latest.
Wow. That
He does
dirty
have a Windows
glass
10.
interface.
Yeah, I know. He does somewhere have a Windows 10
Like an
machine.
animal. Windows. So well, I almost did this as the first story as a joke, but I realized I didn't have the energy. Microsoft deprecated a feature in Windows that I'm pretty sure very few people have ever heard of. It's called suggested actions. It was in the
Sometimes
Windows
I think
11
you
Field
make
Guide
these
until
up.
they deprecated it, then I just removed it.
Nice.
But it very limited feature, very hard to make it kind of come up. You would be surprised if you saw it and then wonder how you made it work. But basically, if you type in a phone number and you select it, you'll get a little pop-up that will let you do things with that. So depending on the apps you have installed on your computer, it might say something like call this number with Skype or whatever. Same thing for dates or times. In that case, it would bring up in the old days the mail or calendar, well, I guess the calendar app. Now it works with the new Outlook app, and I guess probably with third-party apps that register for those kind of things, but it will, make a new meeting for this day or time, that kind of thing. So this has probably been around for about 2 years. My anticipation was that they were going to expand it with other similar features. They never did. I think me and no one else ever used it because I had to write about it for the book. And then they were like, okay, apparently there's this one guy in Pennsylvania using it, so maybe we just get rid of it.
You're right.
And so it's been deprecated. They're not going to update it anymore, and it will be removed in a future version of Windows, probably 25 H2, I would imagine. Okay. The first or the other thing that has happened since we started this show is there's a new build in the Insider program in the dev channel. And this is the channel that's testing their recall and Copilot Plus PC features, right? So if you have an AMD or Intel powered Copilot Plus PC, meaning, AMD Zen 5 chipset or Intel Lunar Lake, and I would assume Arrow Lake, I guess, right? I think. You want to put your computer and ruin it in the Insider program. This is a great idea. You could do that. And so Windows 11, unless you really need it, you probably don't know about this feature either, but it has live captions with real-time translation. Awesome feature, but it only works English primary language, and you have a secondary language that you're listening to, and it will translate to English. So they're testing mixing and matching this with multiple languages, meaning that you could be native to German or French or whatever language, and it will do the real-time translations for you as well. And there's a whole list of these things, mostly European, but also Asian languages. So this is happening soon. They're testing it now in the Insider program. Actually, that one I think might be Snapdragon exclusive for now, but it's going to come to everybody, obviously. And that's about it. So I think that's the big one, but they're just basically, they're building out the recall, click to do, all that stuff, these kind of local NPU features. across Snapdragon and then x86. So that happened. And then there was a build, or there were builds both to, I think, dev and beta on Monday, and nothing major there either. There's a feature coming in Windows 11 that's going to allow you to access the one camera everyone has with 2 or more apps at the same time. You can enable that. And then this is kind of a debugging mode where you can put a camera in like a basic mode and turn off most of its features, basically. But nothing.
Remember when we thought the Copilot Plus was going to be resolved in 24H2?
No, I don't remember. I don't remember anything. What do you mean? 24.
Well, and much less that it's a fragmentation of the feature set. Like, wasn't after 24H2, ARM is just going to be a fellow citizen alongside all the other processors, and so everything will ship together?
Everything that has the word Copilot in it is an example of Microsoft skewing with the product yet again, right? In other words, go back to Windows XP, the first NT version for consumers. It was XP Home, XP Pro, XP Enterprise. Office always had these SKUs, server, multiple SKUs, et cetera, et cetera. Copilot has become like another SKU, right? Another added charge, another set of new features, and it complicates things, right? So people who get a computer that has Windows 11 Home are like, I think I might want Pro. Like, well, what do you need? Like, what are the missing features? You have to kind of sit there and figure it out. It's like BitLocker management, BitLocker to go as well, Hyper-V, et cetera. There's a couple of things, right? But then Copilot Plus, in this case, adds this other layer of hardware accelerated local AI features, like additional features in Paint, in Photos, in nothing else. Who knows? I don't know. Some other things. There's some other ones, but yeah, it's like it turns what should be a simple conversation into kind of a complicated conversation, But yeah, it's only going to get worse. I mean, this is the divide now between the NPU enabled, current sort of and future with the past, and then Intel and AMD. Well, Intel certainly, but I assume AMD are still going to release new chipsets, right? That don't have NPUs and stuff. Like, it's a bizarre world, but there we are. ARM v Qualcomm started the trial on Monday. It's supposed to go through Friday. I have not heard a single thing since the trial started. I did a write-up kind of going over the history of this thing. I don't know that I have any new news here per se, other than I just want to highlight the fact that a lot of people seem to have big opinions about this, like Qualcomm's wrong or ARM's, screw ARM, whatever. And we just don't know the details of their contracts, right? And so this is something that might come out.
I'm kind of astonished this made it to court.
Yeah, me too. This should have been settled.
We're going to learn more about everything because they actually allowed. Yeah, to
well, so this is why I'm hoping to see reports about day-to-day trial stuff, because I don't know if they're going to try to redact this or if it's going to be private or how they're going to do it. But things tend to come out, when big companies go to court. There's been disclosures all over the place. This happened to Google with the amount of money that they're paying Apple, for example. That was not supposed to be public information. That came out during that trial. So we'll see. But basically, a jury is going to decide if Qualcomm is violating ARM's contracts, licenses. And if they are, then a judge will decide what the penalty is. I suspect it's not going to be destroying every Copilot Plus PC that's ever been made. That seems a little extreme to me, but we'll see.
I wouldn't at least be surprised if the judge looks at these two and go, "You need to figure this out. Grow up."
Yeah,
like it's this kind of dumb.
This has come up in a couple ways this year when you think about it, because ARM went public sometime in the past year, and ARM is a company, ARM Holdings, that has never made more than $1 billion in revenue in a quarter.
Yeah, but also at what a 98% profit net margin.
Yeah, no, I know, but
it's like it's $1 billion, but it's cash.
Their designs are used to make the chips that power 90-something
power the majority of computing devices in the planet. Yes,
and I know, and they're looking at that and saying, "Hey, hold on a second, what's going on?" Like, it seems like we should be getting a little bit more of the pie, right? So they have a new ARM v9 design that has higher licensing fees, et cetera. They're expanding into other product types like Qualcomm has already done for themselves, right? Like IoT, car, PC, et cetera. Our Qualcomm notably uses the V8 design, but they also don't even though they're by far the biggest licensee, they pay them very little because they make their own stuff. So they use a very little bit of the ARM IP, and then they go and make their own variations and do their own thing. And in the case of Snapdragon X, obviously, they bought a company, but that was doing the same thing. They are not using the higher license fee V9 and may not ever, or may not for a long time. But to me, they remind me a little bit of Samsung to Android, where it's like, we're doing so much of this now. At what point do we just say, we don't really need you anymore? I don't have the exact numbers off the top of my head, but I want to say in the last quarter, ARM Holdings was probably $800-900 million in revenue, and Qualcomm was somewhere between 10 and 12 billion, so like about 10x, right? A little bit more than 10x as far as revenues go. And, ARM Holdings is like, we just have like 1 billion of that, or something. I mean, it seems like you're doing okay. But anyway, we'll see what happens. Like I said, we don't know the inner workings of the contract. They've both been very well. I will say this: ARM,
we're about to find out if this continues.
We are going to find out.
It's all going to get disclosed.
Qualcomm has said, "Look, we've gone over this a million times. We are not violating this agreement. We're in the clear. We're not worried about this in the slightest." And then you talk to ARM Holdings and they're like, well, we did have to make a note in our financial earnings that if we lose this case, we're not going to grow as fast as we want to next year. So we're not counting on winning the case. And it's like, well, those are two very different outlooks. I guess, we'll see.
Disclosure's got some very strict rules around it. You have to kind of take.
Yes. No, I'm not. I'm not saying that means anything, but yeah. So Kev, thank you for screwing up my third new news story. This has also happened, but the image creator, is now. No, that was the third of three that have happened since we started the show. Was
amazing. That's amazing.
That image creator is now using DALL-E 3, or the latest version, I guess, because I think they were already using DALL-E 3. And it will work now through Bing, the search engine, and also in the sidebar of the Microsoft Edge browser. So I use Designer for the images I do on the site. I'm actually really happy with it. So there you go. I'm like an Edge user now. I've turned into a dork. I don't know what's going on with it. Okay. If you, I don't know how many people know about this. I was going to kind of do this as an app pick, but the truth is I'm not sure it deserves it. So I write in Markdown. I love Markdown. I struggle to find a Markdown app that I love, especially on Windows. If I was using a Mac, this would not be a problem. A lot of apps are great, including one called IA Writer, which I paid for. IA Writer, yes. On Windows, it's a lot like Arc. It's not quite as good as it is on the Mac. You can tell it was designed for the Mac. It doesn't quite run as fast. It's not the same. And they just announced a new major release, and you can sign up to get on the beta, which they describe as a public beta. It's actually kind of a private beta because you got to join a wait list. So I actually got in, super excited, but it's still kind of slow. It's not quite there. So maybe it will get even better, but it is better than it was, but it's still not quite there. So, and part of it might be, I don't think it's native on ARM. So maybe that's part of the deal. I got to start testing this on a few different computers, but I was thinking this was going to screw up my end of year app list, but I think I'm going to stay where I am. So it's out anyway. You may have seen a story about Chrome OS adding something called Safety Reset. This is a way you can non-destructively reset the system. In other words, you're not deleting any of your actual data. And sometimes you have to do this, right? We do this in Windows. The way that works in Chrome OS now is they have a feature called Power Wash, which resets the whole thing. You got to sign in again, it's a little easier to come back on Chrome OS because everything, the
Power Wash,
basically they'll kind of come back. Yep. But this thing is non-destructive, happens in line. And just so if you don't know, speaking of features, I think a lot of people don't know about, Windows has a feature that does this, right? So I think most people are familiar with Reset This PC, which began its life as Reset This PC and Refresh This PC, which were two different features. Now it all goes through Reset This PC, but you can still do a refresh where you basically reinstall the operating system, but keep your data and your store apps. And that's actually all you can do is you have to reinstall the desktop apps. But there's a new feature. I think it's in I don't know if it was 24H2 to begin with, or if they put it in just before then, but there's also a way to reset the system using Windows Update, which so you download a new version of the same version of Windows you're using now, and it reinstalls, and it also can clear up a lot of problems. So we do have things in Windows that work pretty well for this kind of thing. If you care. I didn't have this in my top 10 list for the year, but Vision Pro kind of came and it didn't, whatever. Microsoft laid off about 1,000 people in their Windows mixed reality team. HoloLens kind of sitting there on life support. You can hear that, beep sound, whatever. We'll see what happens.
They have a set of customers, so
I know.
They're not going to sell any new projects. They're keeping the existing hardware for the existing customers. Because the stuff does wear out.
Thank you. But apparently Google is looking at this market and like, yeah, we got to get a part of that. And so they announced Android XR, which I guess they probably is competing with Meta Quest or something. But, Apple, Meta, Google now, all these companies, what they really want is to come up with glasses at some point. So I found the only interesting thing to me about Android XR, other than the obvious references to Google glasses and Robert Scoble taking a shower. Dear God, don't ever put that in my head again.
That was you got a long memory, my friend.
Well, come on. Have you seen this video? How could you can't, it just ruins everything. I can't even have normal relationships anymore. So,
didn't the Google guys actually comment on that too? Like,
yes.
They made it all the way to the CEO.
Yeah. This time with no Scoble. We've been de-Scobled. So anyway, I found it interesting. They're going to market with Samsung. They're going to have, big, stupid VR headset like you would, but they're already talking about the glasses. They're testing glasses. They're courting developers. They're going to be glasses. They're like, we think now we're in the point where we can get to market with something that makes sense. And so you look like kind of like the lead singer Collective Souls got the big, thick, red, black glasses, or I guess Roy Orbison or Buddy
we'll all
Holly.
get used to that. We'll all look like nerds, but
we'll all be nerds. And the whole it ruins my biggest tear now, which is like, hey, Four Eyes. Like now everyone's going to be
I don't have 4 eyes. I have artificial intelligence in these eyes.
Yeah, now I can be all mad. Like, you don't even need those glasses. You're just wearing them so you could have AI. You're such a jerk. I have an actual astigmatism. No, so anyway, they're heading there. That's cool. I mean, whatever.
And to be honest, to be fair, Vision Pro production was halted because they sold all the Vision Pros they wanted to sell. I mean, they sold 500,000. They're not.
Yeah, they got to a place where it's like, are you going to do another run? It's like,
they couldn't make more because they bought all the screens Sony was capable of making.
I appreciate, Leo, that you're an Apple.
I'm defending them,
but
but it's just that there was kind of this sense of, it's a failure because they're not.
No.
Oh, it
wasn't a failure. They did exactly what they wanted, and the next generation they're going to do it. I mean, whether it's I'm a Vision.
The next generation is an interesting thought because you just got these people to spend $3,500.
See, that's what we say about HoloLens 3, though. But for Apple, to me, this
Apple's
was
got the money to pursue.
It was a statement of intent, right? They had the money to keep going on cars. They could have done all kinds of things. But when you look at what they say, okay, we are going to do this, or no, we're not going to do this.
Right.
I think that was part of the rationale there.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, we'll see. Yeah. We'll see.
I mean, my head's already big enough. I don't need anything else weighing it down. But,
that's my attitude. I don't want to wear that thing. No.
I'm like a baby. I can't keep my head like, I'm all like over the place. Like,
No, but I think I guess our consensus on MacBreak Weekly is it was a developer product, but Apple has no genetic material that allows it to release a developer product.
That's right.
They can only release products. So they did release it as a product, but really they're seeding in a category in a long-term play that they're planning to put multiple billions of dollars in.
Yeah, so you would probably be talking about the next one, right? Like the real thing here is,
unfortunately, it's probably a couple of years off.
If it was a hit, they'd be finding a way to make more.
It wasn't a hit, but they couldn't sell more than 500,000. Period.
Well, that's because that was the production lot.
That's what Sony said. Sony said we only can make this.
Sony could also make more.
Okay, but we don't follow Apple closely enough to understand the weirdness of this company. So, like, one of the things I was reminded of. No, I mean, like, I have to remind myself of this.
They're weird.
So there was a headline. You would have, Leo, you'll be all over this. It was like, Apple is going to make another Magic Mouse, right?
Yes.
So I'm like, oh, okay, that name's familiar to me. I don't remember when it came out or how old it is. I thought it might be the one where you plug it in on the bottom.
It is.
And it is. That is what it is.
Yes.
This thing is several years old. They've never updated it.
It's like 10 years old.
The new one, according to Mark Gurman, is not coming out for several more years.
It's a rumor.
Might be. Yeah, it's a rumor, but here's
From a well-qualified rumor source,
Yep,
but
no,
still a rumor. Apple's
he's
never
good.
said anything.
But that's the point. This is a company, or they do this with displays too. They did this with the Mac Mini. They put a product out. It sits there in the market forever. Eventually someone's like, hey, do you think they'll ever update this thing? What's going on? And then like a million years go by. And then one day all of a sudden they're like, hey, V2. So like that's
exactly it.
That is uniquely
stuck
Apple.
with
Like
a horrible
companies don't do that.
keyboard, the butterfly keyboard for years.
Oh, belligerently. Insisting that this was exactly the right thing to do.
And they finally.
What I want is something that literally removes your fingerprints as you type and is so painful that your fingers are bleeding and you're crying, but you have to get through the article.
Everybody knew that this was awful, but Apple. And maybe
it's crazy. Well, but you had to know. They knew, right?
It's the DNA problem. It really is. Their DNA is never apologized, never surrendered.
What were they trying to? What was the point? It's slightly less painful than typing on glass. Is that what it's like in Die Hard where the guy's walking on broken glass and you're like, make that a keyboard. Did you make that a keyboard?
I think to some degree, a lot of this was Johnny Ive, to be honest. And now that he's gone,
and also, but Steve Jobs pushing this too. The whole thinness above all else,
right?
Right, that kind of thing.
Thinness
which is why we're getting a slim iPhone next year. Fantastic.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm not the guy to defend Vision Pro because I've said from day one this is a terrible product.
I think you've done a wonderful job of defending Apple and Vision Pro,
but I'm not convinced that Apple's giving up on Vision Pro. I guess is
no. I don't think that. No. I didn't mean to say that at all.
But like I said, they never
so
tell us. They just suddenly
we won't know.
They'll just be
2028.
hey, one more thing.
Yeah.
No, I bet
finally Blackmagic just released a camera they developed with Apple that's designed for shooting content for Vision Pro. It's $30,000.
Yep.
So it goes with the Vision Pro.
I have it on layaway. It's at Walmart.
But it may be the kind of a critical turning point because there hasn't been that much use for the Vision
for
Pro.
500,000 devices. You're going to make a dedicated camera.
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, there's
some, but
like you just set the market size. It doesn't make any sense.
That market is rather small, but they spend money,
right?
Maybe,
but I think that this is all really an investment in the future. I don't think the Vision Pro, as it stands, is intended to be.
I think it's a
the
dare to
fact
see
that Mark
what people will
Zuckerberg
buy.
doesn't make it makes it interesting.
I don't want to wear it. I mean, I'm with you, Paul. It's who wants to put that in their head?
I want that thing and then my CPAP at the same time, and then like noise canceling headphones, and it'll just be like a hyperbaric chamber. I'm like the Elephant Man now. Exactly.
I honestly, I have said at day one, no one wants to strap a computer on their face. I don't know if Apple knows that or not, but I think I still believe that.
They're obviously shooting for the glasses, right?
But once you get to something lighter weight, exactly.
Yeah.
With augmented reality, not VR, so you're not isolated, but
one day we're going to be crapping on glasses because they'll have inserts for your contact lenses and then, whatever the
is it going to be in my lifetime? No. But someday.
Well, Facebook Meta showed off the Orion, and now the computer's in a box, off your face. Like that was a good move on their part.
But that's also just like, frankly, Google's Android.
Guys, I don't know about your eyesight, but future, if I can read like a menu at a restaurant, I'm doing good. I don't. Yeah. The rest of it is just gravy. I couldn't, whatever.
You got your Nokia phone for that.
You're sitting there, you're like. I asked my wife.
This is what augmented reality is really for.
Past her head, like 4 feet away, so I could read it.
Yeah,
you always know when you're in a restaurant with old folks because everybody's got their phones out.
The word, so it's you go like when you're in your 30s or 40s, you start using the light on your camera.
Yeah.
When you're really old, you take a picture and then you zoom it in.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Their degrees.
I got to stop going to the early bird special.
I definitely like augmented reality to read menus. Like that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I will wear this thing as long as I can read the menu.
Image to text, right? And have it just make it text. Yes, that's good.
Well, now throw the AI in. So you just hold the menu up and then the software says you want the fish.
No, don't even say that. Just, it says what you want. You just say.
Not to get off on a weird tangent, but the iOS 18.2 has the visual intelligence thing in the camera. Have you tried this?
Yeah.
It's actually really good.
It's interesting. It's
really
kind of
good.
Like Google Lens.
I just pointed at stuff in my apartment. It's like, you want to buy another one of those? And like, maybe. Yeah. Like it's
Oh, I do
good.
that now for Amazon if I want to reorder something or whatever. Yeah. I mean,
that's going to hit. That's going to hit for normal people right there. That's useful.
And Apple's smart. They're not pushing it too hard. They're not.
No, but that's a good one.
Scaring
Like they've gotten dumped on a lot for whatever Apple Intelligence, but I was looking at that this morning, walking around the house, and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty accurate.
Honey, why are you taking pictures of the furniture?
Why are you taking pictures of other women? I'm looking for something like this, but less expensive.
Yeah.
What a newer model.
Yeah.
A newer model of this.
Quieter.
I love it on Amazon when you go to buy something.
That's Apple Intelligence.
Don't buy this. There's a
18.3.
newer model.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Let's take a break before we get in any more trouble with our spouses. Paul Thurrott. That's Paul Thurrott, not me. And then that's Richard Campbell, not me. I'm Leo Laporte, and you're watching Windows Weekly. We are really glad you're here. Our show today brought to you, and I mean literally brought to you by CacheFly, our content delivery network. That's what they do. For over 20 years, CacheFly has held the track record for high-performing, ultra-reliable content delivery, serving over 5,000 companies in over 80 countries, and we're one of them. And those 80 countries are important to us because we host our content, the podcast, audio, and the video on CacheFly, right? And then when you go to listen to our shows or watch our shows, when you go to our website, when you use your podcast app, it's downloading it from a server that's near you. If not in your country, in a country next door. So it is bringing the content closer to you. That means faster downloads. That means fewer problems. We've been using CacheFly for almost the entire time, almost 20 years now. We love their lag-free video loading, their hyper-fast downloads, the friction-free site interactions. CacheFly is the only CDN built for throughput. We really like that. Ultra-low latency video streaming can deliver video to over 1 million concurrent users with latency of less than a second. Lightning fast gaming. It delivers downloads faster, but also you can use it to game online with zero lag, glitches, or outages. And anybody who's serving images on the internet will love CacheFly's mobile content optimization. Automatic, simple image optimization so your site loads faster on any device because it says, oh, how big is the screen? Yeah, I got a copy for you. Flexible month-to-month billing for as long as you need. That was important to us because we didn't know. We were just starting out. How much bandwidth do we need? They worked with us. And then once you know, you get discounts for fixed terms. The point is, you design your own contract when you switch to CacheFly. We did, and it was very important to us. CacheFly delivers rich media content up to 158% faster than other major CDNs. They allow you to shield your site content in their cloud. We do that. That means we get a 100% cache hit ratio. You never a cache miss. Again, that means you get our content faster and easier. And with CacheFly's elite managed packages, you get the VIP treatment. Your dedicated account manager will be with you from day one, ensuring a smooth implementation and reliable 24/7 support when you need it. I can vouch for that too. Learn how you can get your first month free right now at cachefly.com/twit. You've heard it for years. Bandwidth for Windows Weekly is provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com/twit. Thank you, CacheFly. We're going into another great year with CacheFly, and we're very, very happy. Back to the show we go, and now it's time to talk. We usually talk about Microsoft 365 around this time. Yes. Unless you want to talk more about Apple, because I'm ready.
Yeah, let's talk some. So iPad. No.
Or how about that Samsung Galaxy S24?
I know. What's happening?
No, let's stay with that. Let's stay with Microsoft.
This is amazing. So Ignite was last month, but by my count, what's that?
And we didn't go.
Oh, we didn't go. Yeah,
you didn't go.
Maybe you should have gone. There was a lot of announcements, approximately 11,000 of them. I have spent an unbelievable amount of time watching videos from Ignite, including some developer-oriented videos, interestingly. But in the last week, there have been a couple of curious announcements about Copilot for commercial customers. And Microsoft 365 Copilot, as it turns out, these things are commingled. So last January, Microsoft announced that some PCs, that's how they worded it, were going to start having a new Copilot key on their keyboards. In the 11 months since then, every single computer I've reviewed has had a freaking Copilot key. Okay. And I install Power Toys now on every computer I use, so I can use PowerToys keyboard remapper to turn that thing off because it makes me insane. I hit that by mistake all the time. It's crazy.
What do you just disable it entirely, or do you?
I just make it do nothing. Exactly right. Or by the way, so keyboard remapper in PowerToys is actually a little hard to use for me. Maybe it's just a user error. So if I have to, I'll have it be the left arrow key. Right.
Right.
So that's the thing I'm hitting, or the thing offensive. I mean to hit.
Right.
Yeah. Same effect. I turn it off. So there was a curious little bit of news last week. Microsoft, I had to read this one 5 or 6 times to be sure I was seeing this correctly. Microsoft told commercial customers, that the Copilot key on PCs is designed to invoke Copilot in Windows. However, since then, we have changed the way Copilot works in Windows, and we have separated it from Copilot for commercial customers. That stuff's all going under Microsoft 365.
Right.
So the new Copilot app that came out a couple of weeks ago in testing, which is the native app, which is really just a web app with a native wrapper, but whatever, only works with Microsoft accounts. It doesn't work with Enter ID accounts, which is kind of confusing to people. It's like before you could sign in with a commercial account and you could access your commercial stuff through that app. Now what they're saying to businesses is because of this change, we're telling you now, you should remap that key to not load that app. We're recommending you load the Microsoft 365 app, which sounds stupid, but it turns out there's a reason for that. Or just turn it off. The few companies that were actually using it, I guess.
Yeah.
And then they recommend uninstalling that app, the one that comes with Windows, and just using the Microsoft 365 app, which apparently has some Copilot stuff in it. Or you could just go to the web, right? So I was like, hold on a second. It's like 10, 11 months after you announced this thing. These computers are everywhere now. And now you're telling businesses
on the consumer side, I can say
this?
it's not huge in the enterprise, but
yeah. Oh, fair enough. Okay.
Yeah.
So it turns out that there's an enterprise data protection feature that's part of Microsoft 365 that they're going to implement across certain interfaces. One of those will be the Microsoft 365 app. It will not be the new Copilot app. So they're doing this kind of segregation between the consumer and commercial
made
worlds.
Some pretty serious promises to M365 users when it comes to all the Copilots, right? Like,
well, this is the fear, right? I mean, it's one thing if, like, I don't know, Recall takes a picture of my credit card or something, but it's another thing entirely if Copilot blats out your private information from your company.
Yeah. Well, this is specifically what Microsoft said. It's like, if you use our enterprise Copilots, that will never happen.
Right.
In fact, we will indemnify you. If any of it does ever appear and you get into a situation, we're going to cover the legal costs on that, right? Like, they've made a pretty big bet. And then Copilot key.
So if you're an admin in a commercial Microsoft 365 organization, you can go to the message center today and you will see 2 new messages in there related to this. And that Microsoft 365 app, which if you use Windows 11, you've seen it, it's pre-installed. It looks kind of like a Fisher Price front end. It was like Windows 11, not feature complete, or didn't work the way you would expect it to work in the beginning. So it has links to, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, whatever. But when you opened if you opened documents from that app, they would open in the web app, even if you had Office installed in your computer. It's like, what? So actually that's been fixed, by the way. But, but from the beginning, it was kind of a strange app, kind of Fisher Pricey. Turns out one of the 11,000 things they announced at Ignite was that app is going to be renamed and rebranded as the Microsoft 365 Copilot app.
Right.
And Copilot experiences are going to be there in the side rail just alongside the other apps. And this will be the one protected by enterprise data protection. And it's got a new icon. And so, if you're familiar now, it's kind of like a circle, like a purple circle. Yeah. It's turning into the Copilot icon, but it says M365 at the bottom. Right. Yeah.
Well, so just out of curiosity, because this machine is a domained, is an AAD joined machine with M365 and so forth. And I haven't run the 365 admin app in ages. So I just clicked, I clicked the Windows key because I don't have a Copilot key and typed in 365 and there's the 365 app. This would normally be my administrative tool, right?
Okay, there you go. Yes, right. Actually, yes.
Ran it. And it's now popped up and it just says Microsoft Copilot, not 365 Copilot.
Interesting.
And says pin Copilot for quick and easy access. Use Copilot in the apps you use every day by pinning it to M365, Outlook, and Teams. And then you have a choice between ask me later, do not pin, or pin and continue.
I like that you get to opt out of that. So that's fascinating for two reasons. One, it's treating you like an imbecile, which I think is hilarious. But two, the reason they're doing that, I think, is because most business users, especially IT admins, if they ever launch that thing, would be like, oh, I don't want to run this, and they're saying, hold on a second, hold on, this is going to be it. So they're actually just, I guess, like the stuff that used to be in the Copilot app in Windows 11 or on the web will now be in that app alongside your other Microsoft 365 stuff. Like I said, if you click on one of the app icons on the side, or if you open a document and you have Office installed, it will actually now open in the right app, which is how it should have always worked.
I'm kind of surprised that they're asking me, though. They're
asking you.
Yeah. Why are they asking me? Like, it makes me concerned that they're asking. Like,
so
they should
if
have just been an update to Outlook. Right.
So if you go, this is tied to the previous story. So if you go to the message center and you look at, there's two messages, because the other one is related to something called Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat, I think is the name of it. Is that right? It's like the chat interface. That too is being integrated. This is like the chat that's grounded in information from the web and your data, inside the company, whatever, like that interface is going in there as well. So this is like now the new front end for, I don't know, whatever, the Copilot stuff. And so if I tied to the I will not pay for AI thing, the Microsoft's customers coming back and saying, hey, hold on, what are you doing here? My understanding is there's going to be a new baseline set of functionality that all customers will be able to access. There'll be Copilot functions in Word, for example, that you'll be able to get even though you don't pay for it extra. You'll run out of credits or tokens or whatever the term is if you use it too much, and then they'll ask you to pay. But some of this stuff will be free. Well, you're already paying for it. You know what I mean? Like, some of it will be part of the thing you're already paying for. I think this is them kind of adjusting the mix, if you will, which brings up a weird Steve Ballmer memory when he was talking about Windows 8.1 and it was a slightly different blend. He was talking about coffee. He's like, we came up with this coffee and it was a little too strong, and now we're going to make a slightly different blend, and that blend's actually going to have a start menu in it. Right? That was the way you described it. It was weird. Anyway, I think that's what they're making the same adjustment, I think, here with Copilot. Copilot, we've talked about this a lot. There are too many products named Copilot. Last year there was 100 and I don't remember the number, 117, 170, whatever, of these things.
Not that we're public. Now, we knew there was a bunch around. There's only maybe a dozen that became public.
But now there are features that are Copilot. Like, it's getting a little weird. So I don't use Word or Excel or that stuff with Copilot, and I don't know what that looks like. But there are now dozens of features that are just Copilot features that are in these apps, and it's like, yikes. So yeah,
I did finally get to the message center, because I can't get to the message center without agreeing to either pin or not. Nice. So I've gone on the web.
No messages for you.
I'm very afraid to click that pin and continue. Wouldn't surprise me if it knocked me off the show in the process, right? Like, that just feels like something that's going to break everything.
Yep. So what did it say?
Oh, UI changes to the M365 app. I love this. This is not, they're disguising you have to do this or you won't know what happens as a choice.
I mean, you want to keep up to date with your organization, right? I mean, we're not holding a gun to your head.
With no sense of consequence. Yeah. What will happen if I actually click on this? Like, I don't even know.
No one knows.
Yeah.
So this is not. Yeah. So the change isn't happening. Isn't going to roll out till January. So it's not happening right now. But I think what they want to do is get you set up with this thing. So this the app. I'm
deeply concerned that they're asking me to agree and not just rolling it out as an update.
Right.
Like, what is this?
Well, I mean, as an admin, you should be able to go in and determine whether or not you even see that. Right. Like, I think that's is going to be an option.
Yeah, this is not dealing like a admin approach to it either. This is like, there's some kind of legal thing I'm not telling you here, but just agree with me.
So, like everyone else listening to this show, the first thing I do every morning after I use the bathroom is load the Microsoft 365 Message Center, and I see what's going on.
Yeah, that's not true. First, you open your laptop and see if it self-starts in the right place. Then you get the giggles, right? That's the first thing. That's really the first thing.
Yeah. Anyway, I happened to see this and I was like, what's happening? I had to go back and watch the keynote. So Rajesh Shah, during his segment, blew through this in like 2 seconds, but he had a picture of the app. He had a picture of the icon. He's like, it's happening in the next few months. And this week, today or yesterday, they put a message or 2 messages and they're saying, yeah, it'll be mid-January. So buckle up.
But this was, you remember they also talked about sort of this like wave 2 of Copilot?
Yeah.
That's what this really is, right?
It almost feels like wave 3, like it's
well, because what was wave 2? Like they said there was going to be some things and we never really felt like it was anything.
Yeah, right. That's a good point. I always took it to mean the agent based stuff, but actually that in some ways hasn't really happened yet.
That's more wave 3, right? That's the now talking about the future.
Yeah, part of
But I think it's this realignment. But I mean, I think what you bang squarely into is there's a big risk here for them. Yes. Because on the admin side of things, we're having a problem with users using their personal LLMs, their chat GPTs and so forth at the office. And so the answer has not been to try and block it all. That's virtually impossible. It's to give them a path. It's fine if you want to use this, please use this one. It protects the company. And then Microsoft made it hard for us to use, right? The fact that the Copilot key would go to the non-secure version of Copilot.
I feel like there's a tiny percentage of businesses that rolled out and managed Copilot to any degree whatsoever. Mm-hmm. But because some of them did, they had to kind of deal with this in a way. Yes. Like if they had just come to market like this from the beginning, would have been a different story. But now they just look spastic again. They moved the Copilot icon 3 times. They changed, they made it different things. It was a sidebar, resizable sidebar window. There was an app, there's an app, and now they're doing it again. Are you kidding me? Like you couldn't make this up. They look like they have no idea what they're doing. Well, I think they have no idea what they're doing.
Satch has also bifurcated the AI story with having Silliman running the consumer side of things. Like now I'm starting to wonder if that's what we're actually seeing. This is tied to that. Here.
Yeah. So now we're going to see the difference between, that's a good point.
We get 2 different groups working and the enterprise
your software doesn't fit the org chart.
Well, I think your software is fitting the org chart, and that's why it's weird.
That's why it's weird.
Right? This is Conway's law in action. Oh, you built 2 totally separate AI teams, one for consumer and one for enterprise, not recognizing that a lot of consumers are also working enterprises. Gee, I wonder what's going to happen.
Yep.
Isn't that interesting?
I'm not only an enterprise employee, I'm also a consumer.
This is just the only thing I can equate this to is there's a feature in Word that started only on the web that allowed you to you could upload a video or an audio and make a transcription, which is just very common, but at the time was not very usual. And my wife and I, either one of us would run out of it. There was some invisible system of credits. So we would go to each other and say, hey, could you do this for me? And if that didn't work, I would load up my commercial account and do it from there, but like that's what people who use Copilot are going to start doing. They're going to be like, oh, I guess I ran out of my tokens on my whatever account. So now I'm going to go over to my work account or my whatever it is. And like, just keep, like, it's like, where can I just want to get this thing done. I'm trying to make a funny picture of Tim Cook. Why won't anything let me do that? That kind of thing. So I don't know. It's just, at least they're entertaining.
It's interesting, but it's this was probably a non-trivial crisis internally.
Oh my God.
You've got early adopters who've been working hard to trying to deal with this issue of not using insecure LLMs, and Microsoft gave them a path to use it. The obvious path, that key was a problem. Like that's pretty awesome.
I know. It's perfect. It's perfect.
It's perfect.
You couldn't, if you wrote this script, someone would say, nope.
But you also
no company is that dumb.
You have presented me with the perfect case for why there's not a Dell Latitude with a Copilot key.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that's why it's just purely consumer hardware so far. It's like, how do I advise administrators about, is it time to start buying these machines? It's like, now if they haven't made a Latitude, it's for a reason, because the guys who work on Latitude are very careful about how enterprises work. And that key would be a linchpin on it.
I feel like I think there are HP and probably, I don't have it here, but the latest X1 Carbon has a Copilot key.
Yeah, that's not really an enterprise device either.
We all have that cousin we're not super proud of. The Copilot keys like that.
It's the
here's my daughter.
relative
She's
that
a failure.
But now I'm
about
confronted with the administrator who's got 1,000 machines to bring in. They're all going to have Copilot keys on it, and installing power toys and configuring each one of them is not on the radar. Like, that's not a thing I can do. It needs to be a policy.
That's the stupidest thing in the world. I mean, I'm sure there are. No, well, so I should say, first of all, you're going to be able to do this from policy. You would hope. Yeah. No, they've said this. No, they have said this. But yes, I don't remember. I think if you look this up, the Copilot key maps to function key 22 or 23. It's like, nice. It's not on the typical keyboard, so it's kind of a weird one. But
do you have this key? I do not know.
It's like, I've never seen a number that high. That's a curious one.
That's on my second row of functions.
Yep.
All right, I want to talk about AI because that's my favorite subject right after Vision Pro. But I want to take a little break here, if you don't mind. And just remind people that this is Windows Weekly. And that guy right there is Paul Thurrott. He's in the middle, if you're watching this.
If there should be a firing squad, I'm not saying there will be one, but if there is one.
The one in the middle. And then the guy on the right is Richard Campbell, runnasradio.com. We're so glad you're here, winners and dozers. All right. That was just a little pause so we can, if we feel like it, stick an ad in. And with some of the ads getting stuck in, it does feel that way, I'm sure. But we do direct ad insertion. I don't know. I could just you know what? I'll put one of my my own ads in.
Antifreeze isn't permanent. It wears out. So every fall, my baby here gets a fresh feel of Prestone antifreeze.
On we go.
My baby here.
There is a conspiracy theory that we insert ads like that to compel people to join the club so they get ad-free versions of the shows.
If their ads are bad enough, if subscriptions go up,
people will pay. No, we don't do that. We're trying to squeeze every penny we can out of this sad sack.
I'll take a penny at this point.
It's a penny. No, you know what? This was a good week. Weirdly enough, all the advertisers that said they ghosted us basically for a month. Finally just kind of woke up and said, oh, wait a minute.
End of year budgets.
Yeah, we got to spend this money.
Don't have any clear answers here.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't understand business. I really don't. But the good news is we will be back next year. That's
keeps the lights on, friends.
These lights, they're not cheap. Let me tell you.
Keep those lights on.
All right, on we go with Windows Weekly. AI, the topic for the next segment.
Yeah, this is quick because most of this is not particularly Microsoft related, but Grammarly, the AI writing assistant, I hate to hate.
You use it anyway, though, don't you?
Yeah. Well, I've been using something called Language Tool for the past few months, which I actually like quite a bit. I find my relationship with Grammarly is it annoys me, and then I turn it off, and it's kind of like a yipping dog.
No, I've definitely had the experience of it. It's you're not happy with the sentence. Okay, show me your new version. You show me the new version. It goes, and then it says, I'm not happy with this one either. It's like, okay, well, show me that version. That's the old one. What are you doing?
Yeah, I've had it switch. It's like, okay, I accept it. Then it goes, it says, well, what about the thing? It's like, that's the thing I had originally. And you switch it back. It's like, well, what about this? Like, guys, come on, we got to,
you got to go.
Yeah. I also don't like that. I have certain styles that I use when I write, and it doesn't have a thing that's just stop nagging me about this. Like I'm not changing it.
No, the idea that would understand that you're writing in different styles at different times. Now, let's face it. The real reason you use Grammarly is to get a weekly affirmation email that says, boy, you write a lot.
Actually, there's all sorts of good stuff in that email. I love that email.
Yeah.
You use the passive voice 16 times.
Yeah. Well,
stuff like that.
I would say you're passive aggressive, but you just passive.
You just passive.
Yeah. So they're buying a company called Coda. I've never heard of, but Coda makes an app called Coda Docs, which is just like Notion. Oh, and they've created something called. I
saw this story.
So it's just like Loop.
Something else. Yeah. They've created an AI assistant. So they basically merged. So the CEO of Coda is going to become the CEO of Grammarly. And they'll keep doing each of them will keep doing, the one company will keep doing all the products they have been doing. But
almost like a reverse takeover. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Except maybe the CEO of Grammarly said, I'm tired. And
apparently those guys are buddies and they know each other and he's cool with it. But of course you would say that. I don't know. It's interesting.
There are many ways to solve this problem, and some of them are involving checks with 2 commas in them.
Yeah, I think it was a
stepping down's real easy when I hand.
I was imagining it was like kind of a rock paper scissors thing, but that would be another. Yeah.
How about you could be the CEO or the giant pile of money?
Well, he's on the board still. He's still on the board.
It's done.
Oh yeah, okay. I wasn't sure about that part of it, but so that's interesting. I think. If you haven't looked at these things, Google just announced something called Veo, or I guess it's Veo or Veo.
Veo is pretty amazing. Holy moly.
These are all amazing. Imagen 3, which has been around for a while, but they've updated it. And these are their models for creating videos and images, respectively. And then they have these tools on the web and Google Labs that let you use this stuff. These are really nice looking. Actually, these are really good. They also announced an app called Whisk with an H, like Whisk, Whisk, which looks like a consumer product to me. Also in Google Labs for now, but which is a way you can give it 2 images and it will do kind of like a remix thing on it, which sounds like a Microsoft thing. But the idea there perhaps is you have like a literal photo of a human being, and then you have maybe a cartoon or a color or whatever it might be, and then it will make a kind of mashup of those things, and you can do multiple images and have it come out with something at the
subject style scene, right?
Somebody on Reddit posted this video comparing all of these video generators for the prompt: a pair of hands skillfully slicing a perfectly cooked steak on a wooden cutting board, faint steam rising from it. And Veo is up here. Yeah. And I would say Veo by far is the best looking of these.
Yeah, so that's what blows my mind is,
I mean, that looks real.
One of the big stories with AI,
and I apologize to any vegans watching this because
those look horrific. Great, and that video is fantastic. So goddamn, that looks that totally
makes you want steak, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't know what crap you thought
Here's
you were
Sora.
making.
This is OpenAI's, which is hey, at least it's got 5 fingers, but
right,
it's a little odd.
Yeah.
This is I don't know this one. Runway.
I think Google. Google
steaming, all right.
It's steaming a little.
Looks like it's smoking.
Yeah, exactly. It's gonna blow. Google has kind of come back, don't you think?
Yeah, Veo is very impressive compared to all these.
There was a lot of face raking with this company. That looks like ham on the inside. That was terrible.
I know. Some of it's really disgusting.
That one's weird, but
if again, I apologize if you're not a
no, but these are honestly by and large are amazing quality.
These are generated from a text prompt.
Yeah, right.
Unbelievable. That's really
Google has, I don't know which one is it. They have another one you can just give it a picture and it makes. Oh no, I guess maybe it's OpenAI doing that where you give it a photo and then it makes a minute-long video. That's what a world we live in.
What a world.
Getting stranger.
See, next year at this time, we're going to be talking about an app where you give it a photo of something and then it makes it like a video game out of it.
That exists.
Oh, good.
OpenAI will do that.
Okay, excellent. Yep.
Both Steve and I have been using OpenAI's, and actually we were talking a little bit about OpenAI's newest model, 01, which is a reasoning model. And during the show, I had said I've been stuck on Advent of Code problem from day 7. 12 days ago.
What are we at? 18 now?
Yeah. But I was stuck. And so I thought, as we were talking about, let me just give it, a text description of the problem. And it wrote code that works.
It's great.
Like, now you're unstuck. Enjoy. It was a little weird. Much like when computers play chess. Sometimes they make moves that are not human.
Well, they never make moves that are human. They're not humans,
right?
They're not human. But most of the time, they're moves that a very talented grandmaster might make. But sometimes they make moves where the grandmaster goes, But almost always.
You've just described the difference between a decision tree model and a neural net model.
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
Decision tree model will tend to do the grandmaster's move based on a deep set of knowledge, where a neural net model is totally derived. You might anthropomorphize it into the grandmaster's move,
right?
But it's not how it's computing.
Although I have to say, at that level, grandmasters are not necessarily fully calculating. They also have kind of the gestalt, the intuitive impression.
Oh, they definitely. It's exactly like when I play Call of Duty, Leo.
You don't think. You just
you have these patterns and paths that you follow,
yes,
and you repeat and repeat and repeat. And then a year goes by and you're like, where did my wife
Where did
go?
my life go? Yeah.
you know, it's weird.
It's all
I
over.
see you are doing the Panapasad move. I will counter it with.
Yeah. That's fascinating.
Anyway, yeah, but look, that meat looked good. I'm just going to say.
It really
Now he
did.
knows
Now
what he
very
wants for
hungry.
lunch.
VO2.
I
is
already
really
wanted that for
amazing.
dinner today. Now that I've seen, I'm going to show that to my wife.
Yeah.
Be like, hey,
That's how you get her.
Yeah,
Does the trapdoor have good steaks?
I'm not going to be doing
Yeah,
that.
yeah, you do.
Not going to be doing that to the vegetarian wife. It's not a good.
Oh, no, you can't. In fact, I apologize because if you're vegetarian, that must have looked horrible.
It just looks great. But
You know what? I bet
I
it
want a
didn't
steak,
look
I cook it
horrible.
outside
I bet
on
it
the
looked
grill.
wonderful, and they hate their lives because they're making a huge mistake.
Yeah. Oh, you
Mistakes. See
making
what
steak
I
puns
did there?
now? Yeah, steak puns. Yeah.
Okay, that's right.
All right.
Sorry, here all week. Okay. Xbox kind of going out with a whimper in a way, but although I have a little bit more later in the back of the book. There is a big sale happening, not just at the Microsoft Store, I should point out, actually. Epic Games was, and Steam was, and maybe both still are, having a sale as well. But you should go look at these things. In the Microsoft case, they have PC and Xbox games, obviously. Sorted by price. You'll be surprised when you go down to the cheap ones. There's some good stuff in there. It's worth looking at for sure. There's other stuff going on there, but Microsoft has apps and Surface PCs and yada, yada, yada. But honestly, the game stuff is really good. Worth knowing about. And then there's this other announcement that I have to say still confuses me a little bit. But Microsoft announced that they were bringing more PC games into the Xbox app on Windows. So I use the Xbox app on Windows a lot because I have a Game Pass subscription. This is how I install things like the latest Call of Duty or one of the Doom games or whatever it is. And you can use it as a launcher. It's, whatever. When I saw this, what I assumed was they were integrating with like Steam and Epic and whatever else Google games, but that's not what this is. I guess there are a bunch of games that offer Xbox Live features like achievements or Play Anywhere, whatever the feature might be. And so it's bringing in those games that haven't historically been in the Xbox app. So there are apparently 400 of them so far. And a lot of these are coming out on these little handheld systems now, like we have like Steam Deck and those kind of things where there's a whole new group of casual games that have Xbox features and stuff. So they're starting to work with third parties who are implementing Xbox features, but not going into the store for some reason. So yeah, okay. I mean, good to know about, I guess, but not like a huge game changer. I'm doing it again, Richard. Look at him.
Just a big old pile of puns, aren't you?
Yep. I am a writer. No, I'm sorry.
AI won't do that for you. Actually,
I probably will. Actually, you probably do it better.
very
but
good.
I've never tried that prompt. You can only respond to me.
I would
in puns.
only want puns.
Yeah,
That would be interesting.
that would be terrible.
Yeah.
It's like a horror show.
That would be interesting. All right, we got the back of the book coming up. Is that it for Xbox? It seems very
Yeah, I know
brief.
it's not much.
Okay.
It was a slow week.
I mean, there's lots of sales on Steam and things, but I would look at them and go, "There's a $5 game I'm never going to get around to playing."
I remember back in the day,
I know.
I bought an Atari 400 because
Oh, boy.
I was tired of
Nice.
dropping quarters at the local Chuck E. Cheese.
You wanted Star Raiders.
And there was a store, and it was kind of one of those hole-in-the-wall stores, fly spec'd, they just sold video games.
Yeah.
And it was like they were all jumbled together, and almost all of them were terrible.
Oh, wait, you
But
grew up in Providence, right?
Yeah, but this was
So-
in
This is
San
early?
Jose.
So, because I
Silicon
was gonna,
Valley.
you would appreciate that I used to go to Leechmere
Oh,
and,
Leechmere,
and just to play Star Raiders on the Atari 400.
Yeah.
You know,
Now it's Buster and Charlie's or something.
Right.
Buster and Lisa said the other day, she said, "Oh my God, there's a Buster and Charlie's coming to Petaluma." And I thought,
oh God, what the hell?
why do you care?
So we discovered
Yeah.
Best Buy when we went to Phoenix, and it was like, oh, this is like Leechmere done right and national.
Yes.
But you'll
No,
appreciate
this was more
this.
like Leechmere. It was just, and it was all tumbled in. Games were falling. But I would go
Leechmere
in
went out
there
of business in
a
the
lot.
1990s.
hoping for
And-
a great game.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
And I'd look at the cover, and the cover would be spectacular. Go, this
Oh
is
yeah,
gonna be
they always
fun.
had like nice
Spend the money on the art.
Spent all the money on the art because the game was awful. It's very
Yeah.
hard to find a good game.
I got a game for the Commodore 64 that was on a cassette.
Oh
And
yeah,
you could control break it or whatever and just see the basic story. It was basic. It was written in BASIC.
Of course.
Classic.
That's how they are. That's how it was in those days. Hey, before we go on with the back of the book, the best part of the show part that you all look forward to every day, I want to give us a little plug for Club TWiT. Now, I got to tell you, there are some real benefits to joining Club TWiT. It's $7 a month. Okay, so it's practically free. Just don't have a coffee today. Don't go to Starbucks today, and you're paid for. But that whole month, you're going to have ad-free versions of all the shows. You're going to have access to the Club TWiT Discord, where you will find some very fun and interesting people posting fun and interesting images like this. This is Paul wearing his I Love Microsoft Teams nightshirt, it looks like. This is clearly AI
this
generated.
This is clearly a deep fake. I don't know what's happening here.
It says, "Hello, Microsoft. Can you direct me to someone in your organization who knows what the hell you're doing?" I think credit to Joe Esposito, I think, for that one. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
but he's really good at putting in this stuff. The Discord is, I don't think we sell it enough. For instance, if you're listening to the show and you're in the club watching and chatting, you get a lot of additional content, including, animated GIFs. Kev Brewer pretty typically will post the links that you're talking about. I don't know what this is.
This is almost turned into like Joe Esposito as a service.
It is. JAS, we call it. JEASS. Anyway, lots of fun. Grep the benefits. Oh, I love these guys. Anyway, we do very much enjoy the Discord, but that's just one. You also get the TWiT Plus feed, which includes shows we don't put out in public. Tomorrow, we've got actually a very big day tomorrow in the club. Thursdays often are. Let's see. We have Micah's Crafting Corner in the morning tomorrow. Micah is he's building like a tiny kitchen, like a dollhouse kitchen. I think that's what he's working on. But you could do anything, crafting, coding. It's just a great hang. Every third Thursday with Micah and the gang. That's so much fun. And then in the afternoon, we're doing Stacy's Book Club, a book that I really liked. Jason Snell recommended it. The new one from the guys who wrote The Expanse, James S.A. Corey. The new one's called The Mercy of Gods. It's a new series they're beginning. It's fantastic. So you can watch that, the production of iOS Today. You can, we're doing coffee in there. We're doing photography. It's just all sorts of stuff that is the stuff that kind of we're interested in, that grabs our attention. And I think it's a lot of fun. So anyway, that's one reason to join the club. Ad-free, Discord, special stuff on TWiT Plus feed. Oh, and the warm, fuzzy feeling you're getting at this time of year by supporting the efforts we're making to give you great stuff, great content, shows you can hang out with, fun people to be with, but also informative stuff that tells you things you need to know in your job or just in your life. It's our mission to make technology accessible, to teach people about technology so they can use it for themselves in their lives, in their work, in their play. And I think we do a pretty good job of that. I want to keep doing it. Thanks to you, we have a great membership and we'd like to get more. My goal is to reach 5,000 more members by the end of the year. We're very close to that. Thank you. And because of that, we don't have to cancel any shows or lay off any more staff this next quarter. We were worried we might have to, but the club members came through. Thank you. twit.tv/club Twitter. Scan the QR code in the upper left corner of your screen. We thank you in advance for the support you give us here at twit.tv. Mr. TWiT, back of the book means we want something from you. Maybe a tip of the week?
Yeah. So I've keep working on my kind of end-of-year wrap-up stories, I guess. So since last week, I did one on books and audiobooks. It's been like a week since I've mentioned Steven Snofsky, so I will point out that he was my favorite book of the year.
Still is. You reread it every
I read
Monday.
it. I was reading it today. I read it. I think I read part of this book
some
every day.
people reread Lord of the Rings, but you.
Yep, no, I did that for many years.
Which is of similar length, actually.
Yeah,
Yep.
Tolkien and Sinofsky.
Yep, it's a similar
Who
number
has
of
more
orcs.
poetry? That'd be my question.
Yeah.
There is no
Tolkien,
singing in
Tolkien used to be
Sinofsky.
my Tolkien, but yeah.
Not anymore.
But I today I did one of those article, or was it today or yesterday? I guess yesterday. It came out of, it was going to be part of something else and it just turned into this thing. But I have sort of been saying for the past few years, like I feel like I review like roughly 12 laptops a year.
It's amazing.
Yeah, except that I reviewed 20.
yeah, I was thinking that's way too low.
And I was like, oh, that's more than I would have thought. And I still have like 4 or 6 more to go that they won't all happen by the end of the year. But
nice.
So it's not, just, something to look at. And
oh, dude, you're killing me here.
What's wrong?
You didn't like your iPad Air, huh?
No, it's fine for what it is, but it's not the right one for me. I should never bought that. It's too big, it's too heavy.
Oh, the mini.
I just need a small one.
The mini's
I just
great.
read. All I do is read. I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So that was a mistake. But
look at all the phones you reviewed too. You are just a madman.
I do too much. Yeah.
You do too much, Paul.
Yeah.
That's you just do too much for us.
Anyway, that's worth looking at. And then my wife and I just, not tech related, but we finally put out the first preview version of the book we've been working on.
Oh,
which
nice.
Is basically a Mexico City
Eternal Spring,
live
the book,
guide, blah, blah,
the
blah,
novel.
Whatever, yeah, the novel. Yeah. Yep. Soon to be a lifetime, a special event.
So if you're a premium member at TheRot.com, you can read it right now.
No, you can read that. Well, you just read the article about it. So this was like
the
a
suffering.
Thing. This is
and LeanPub has the preview. Okay.
Yeah. This was what I discovered on this journey was that my wife and I have very different writing styles, and we're lucky that we didn't kill each other. So
she's a writer, though. We should.
She's an award-winning writer.
Yeah.
I don't know how she won an award based on what I've seen. No,
nice.
No, she's fantastic. We just
and you used your emoji heads, your Genmoji heads.
I told you we are going to do the emoji heads. Thank you, Apple Intelligence.
I got to get this before I go to Mexico City. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
is it mostly about moving to Mexico, or is it about?
It's mostly just a guide to the place. Just like nice. like a Rick Steves book, except for Mexico City because he's a jerk and doesn't like Mexico.
Does he not like Mexico?
No, he likes Mexico. He just doesn't write it. He just writes about it.
Rick's likes everything. Except his wife, apparently, who's a little pissed that he spends all his time on the road.
Well,
he confessed to that.
They did get divorced.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was part of that interview I just read. That was kind of interesting. It's worth reading. It's sometimes you make these decisions in life and you're like, well, I would do some things differently.
Yes, be a travel guy.
Or this is what chose me. I don't know. Which is what you say when you're mental, I guess. But I
chose me.
I certainly understand. I love that phrase. I didn't choose this career; it chose me. Did it? I think we could be okay without you, honestly. But yeah. And then the app pick of the week is a game. So Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I finally got going on this, and
getting lots of love in the world. Like in a time of hated games, this
is the one where it doesn't look like Napoleon.
No.
It's a big game. I went to one computer, didn't have enough space, went to the second one.
Harrison Ford. Sort of looks like Harrison Ford.
So I will say this. The opening sequence is the opening sequence from the original Raiders movie, right? So that's kind of fun. You know the story, so you can go through it. It's good. The voice that does Harrison Ford, perfect.
Yeah. Not Harrison Ford, although he was on the
that's
stage
what I mean. The voice who does him
at the event. So
he sounds like him. Yeah,
he's definitely supportive.
Yeah, but they
showed up at the Game Awards.
He was at the Game Awards.
Yeah, but I don't think they were allowed to use his likeness.
Okay, well, there are moments in this game where the character looks exactly like him,
right?
And then he turns his head like a quarter of an inch, and it looks nothing like him. And there's also that awkwardness thing, like it's him or another one of the human beings where they're in a room just talking. There's a lot of talking. There's a lot of.
I don't like a lot of cutscenes.
Yeah, I know it's a little slow. It can be slow, but like there's a good example. Like like it looks a little off, like the dimensions of the different body parts or whatever.
Yeah.
But you know what? Is
it a good game? That's all that matters.
It seems pretty. I've only done I finished the first two, I don't know what you call them, like levels or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Like I'm happy to play something else and actually kind of like it. You know, like I suffered with like Halo Infinite last year and I wanted to scrape my eyeballs out with a fork. But this is a good one. So,
and only 111 gigabytes.
You got to have enough space. You could stream. I haven't tried streaming it, but it is on PC, Xbox, and Steam. It's on Xbox console, obviously.
Yeah.
Part of Game Pass Ultimate and PC.
Nice.
And like I said, you can stream it. So yeah, it's pretty much everywhere except Sony. Sorry. Although it's coming to Sony PlayStation next year too.
There you go. Thank you, Mr. Paul Thurrott. We turn now to the estimable Richard Campbell for his part of the back of the book, starting with Run As Radio.
Oh, this week's show actually recorded just before Ignite, sort of a dancing with releases there. This is Microsoft Vice President Yitzhak Kesselman, brilliant guy. And it was we had a conversation about a new feature in Microsoft Fabric, which is what they call, quote unquote, real-time intelligence. And I opened the conversation with the real thing, which is, so what do you say when you say real-time? What do you mean? So, and it's an important conversation from a business context perspective too, because, you know, generally speaking, if we're talking about daily sales, you only reconcile to the day, or maybe you might get down to hourly. So the real time is still behind. It's just how behind. And so, like, is there an ROI for taking action inside of a particular time window? We talked about factories where jigs are getting out of alignment, you're mismanufacturing product. And so being able to stop it within 5 minutes saves you money versus stopping it within an hour. And so, because it's complicated to make real-time stream data and actually act on it. And the parts here were, you know, a combination of Power BI and a combination of the whole back-end services around Fabric to allow you to get telemetry and continuously report on it on dashboards. So impressive stuff. And certainly stuff I've rolled my own on for many years when I had customers who wanted to do this sort of thing. That factory scenario I'm describing is one I worked on ages ago. And where it literally was minute by minute costing you dollars. Those things were when they got to QA, mismanufactured. So can we assess them on the fly? And so this was about building sort of the bits and pieces to allow you to connect all the parts together. So you walk through that back-end hub, different kinds of dashboards, and then a term he used called activators, which really about, can your software send you an email saying, hey, there's a problem based on the telemetry it's gathered? You know, how do you notify folks to get rapid action? So a very practical show about a new set of tools. This is Microsoft, I think, in a lot of ways at its best, where they built out the Fabric platform, and now they're able to layer on these new capabilities to allow businesses to act quickly without making huge investments.
Excellent. Did you bring anything to share with the class this week?
I always do. And actually, this was a fun one because it's Christmas. So I went for a gift.
Oh.
So this was a present given to me some time ago. It's been sitting in the closet now that I've sorted out the whiskey closet after moving. And it was one of the ones I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to when I got it. I think I thanked whoever gave it to me very nicely and thought it might be fun to bring it down and try it out. And then I actually researched it, and you're like, I really got to figure out who gave this to me because they spent a lot of money.
Is it expensive?
Yeah.
Oh.
This is Mithuna, which is the Indian mythological character that's the equivalent of Gemini in the Zodiac, and this is actually part of what they call the Zodiac series. So we're talking about an Indian whiskey, which I've not done before. And I want to lead off very much with, hey, you're talking about one of the cradles of civilizations. The Indus Valley was a famous Bronze Age culture, although it even starts before that. It's one of the 6 places in the world where agriculture emerged on its own. There's no evidence that it was brought there. They had their own crops. So the alluvial plain of the Indus Valley runs from today what is northwest India and through Pakistan, but it's from the foothills of the west side of the Himalayas is this large river and alluvial plain that drains into the Arabian Sea beside the city of Karachi, a place I've been. And so we know from our stories here that anytime you have agriculture, you end up with alcohol, right? It's a natural byproduct of that. And that area has grown rice and wheat and sugar canes and grapes for millennia, many millennia. It's one of the first. Sugarcane comes from New Guinea, and it propagated. There's evidence of it propagating into areas of China and into South Asia, like this area, 8,000 years ago. Like, so I guess as early as you get when you talk about agricultural cultures, like arguably the Fertile Crescent is maybe 1,000 years before that, but this is super old school. And so let's be very clear that there were not, as much as there are foreign entities that were in India for a long time, they did not introduce these people to alcohol. They had their own. That being said, whiskey came to India during the British Raj. So when the Brits were in India, they brought whiskey there in the early 1800s.
Is there a ethnic hard liquor for India prior to this? I mean, what do they drink?
They mostly beers, so and not typically grain based, because grains did not grow particularly well there. It's too tropical. So the big product would be sugarcane. The natural alcohol for them would be derived from rum, from molasses. Right. Okay. Right. But the evidence of distillation is a different can of worms, because you need alembic stills, if you talk about early stills and so forth. So they probably made a variation on the sort of shoju, like 15 to 20% derived from sugarcane. It's very plentiful. It is not a food. Like, there's a real significant discussion about taking a food grain like wheat and making it into booze rather than feeding people when you have a nation that populous. And so for the most part, a lot of that alcohol was resisted just because it's a waste of food, right? Again, you get back to, you need agriculture to have an abundance of food to actually want to store it in a way, and converting it into alcohol is a way to store it. But yeah, you're also going to bump into some interesting political elements about what you would consider indigenous people to India. When you're talking about Indus Valley cultures and going up into Tajikistan and Rajasthan, like that, all those areas, there have been people around there for a really long time. And so the conversations about who was first and where they came from and so forth is complicated. And it's easy to stick your foot in it at being a Westerner. So I'm speaking carefully for a reason, that it's a big deal. Exactly who's from where and who controls what. You know, Kashmir is still a conflict zone to this day between India and Pakistan, and this is right in that's the upper foothills of where the area we're talking about here, that was the Indus Valley. So this is as far east as Alexander the Great got. Like, this is a very historical part of the world, in a culture at the moment that doesn't focus a lot on its history. It's focused on its future because there's a lot to do.
But it is in some ways the cradle of civilization.
In many respects, yeah. But I also am deeply appreciative, as someone who's traveled very heavily, that, you know, agriculture emerged in South America with quinoa and tomatoes and beans and corn.
Yes, that's true. Yeah,
and it emerged in the Far East with pork and chicken and rice, and it emerged in the Fertile Crescent with grain, with the grains of barley and wheat and so forth. Like, it's not a unique experience. It didn't come from just one place. It came from many places.
Mm-hmm.
And at different times. I mean, again, spanning thousands of years, without a doubt, but very much prehistory. Neolithic, Paleolithic, and Bronze is when you get all of these agricultural entities. And this was one of them. I just didn't want to come storming in talking about whiskey in India without acknowledging the fact that there's been people there for many thousands of years, and they made lots of things. They were very, very capable. But if you're going to talk about whiskey, you end up talking about the English, which again is touchy. So the Indians liked whiskey, and they made their own. They just didn't make it from grain, because grain was very valuable. It was food. And so they made it mostly from sugar cane. So for a long time, when you talked about whiskey from India, it was more like rum. They often used it. They would even use molasses to make neutral spirit and make a kind of blended whiskey with a little bit of imported single malt in it, like 10 or 15%, which would not qualify as a blended whiskey by Scottish standards or your EU standards at all. But a lot of those issues start to get resolved as you get the opening up of India into the Western world. And so by the 80s, grain production is starting to expand substantially. And the first real whiskey-style distillery is a company called Amrut, which I probably should have opened with, but I didn't have a bottle handy, and I did have this. So Amrut made their first kinds of whiskey in the early 80s. And as grain production expanded, there wasn't a culture of single malt there, so they mostly just made blends. Their popular whiskey going back to the mid-80s is a thing called Prestige Blend. But by the early 2000s, which really corresponds with the modernization of hybridization of grains growing well in the Indian subcontinent. So I just really want to associate this with food. It wasn't until the early 2000s that you get the kinds of wheat and barleys and things that grow extremely well in their conditions, and they make a lot. And so now it's not a really rare product that you have to be careful with. And the same company, Amrut, that had been making these blends from the 80s, launched the first single malt, but they actually launched it in Glasgow in 2004 and sold it while they were aging it in India. They only sold it in Europe for the first few years. They didn't actually try and sell it into the Indian market until 2010, which is weird, that you're not actually selling your own product. But you can understand why. That's where the culture of single malt comes from Scotland. So they focused on that to sort of introduce that idea into Indian as an Indian product. And to be clear, when you talk about total volume sold of whiskey style products, India is the largest market in the world. Now, it also has the largest population in the world, and it also has a very insular liquor market. The to import whiskey into India, I think you pay 150% tariff on top of that. So they've protected their own alcohol market fairly heavily. And there is about a dozen distilleries in India today. And all of the big players in the liquor industry, Diageo, Suntory, and Seagram's, all have entities in India today. They have bought in or have somehow gotten involved. And so there's a reason that the Indian market is as massive as it is. Now, this particular whiskey, which is made by a company called Paul John, which is literally named for its founder, Paul P. John, who's from Bangalore. Founded the company in 1992. Didn't come out of nowhere. He is the son of a plantation owner and liquor baron from Karnataka, which is the province right beside the little province of Goa, which is where this is from. And they own 3 different distilleries in India, largely through acquisition. They also make wine and brandy. They have their own lines in that area as well. And they get that when they acquired the Chitali distilleries from the Maharashtrian government, which is another province in southern India. A lot of these businesses where government started and operated, and they've gradually sold them off into private enterprise to scale them up. And buying that distillery allowed them to make enough neutral spirit to really start making large scale blends. And so production quantities go up. They're mostly making blended whiskeys. They don't get into single malts a little bit later. And just to round out the sort of story of the John Paul Distillery Company, in 2017, they sold 51% of the ownership to Sazerac, which is the American group out of Frankfort, Kentucky, that makes primarily bourbon. But then those are the guys who make Eagle Rare and Buffalo Trace, and
they make some good stuff.
A bunch of
Was there a Paul John?
So here's a Paul John. He's an actual person. He's still alive. I'm going to get the company only started in the 90s, and so this is not a long-term company in that sense.
Like a well-known.
Yeah, he's fairly famous, and he's his whiskey line is quite respected. This is nice whiskey, and it is very different architecturally from Scottish whiskey, starting with different barley. They use a 6-row barley that they grow in the hills of the Himalayas. Again, this is when we get into the tailoring of grains to an environment. You're dealing with the Indian subcontinent. It's quite a bit hotter and wetter. And so the typical 2-row barley doesn't grow that well there particularly. And it's different. It's a different grain. And so it has a lower alcohol content because the protein and enzyme counts are so much higher. And so when you make wort from 6-row barley, you get about 5% alcohol from the wort rather than 7 or 8%, the typical what they call brewer's beer, when you're making it from 2-row barley. So it's a different barley. It's local barley, like it's Indian barley, legit. They are using mostly a Scottish technique, but with locally made equipment. So stainless steel mash tuns, wooden washbacks, and copper stills that are designed like Scottish ones, but again, made locally. So they have reflux bulbs. They have long rising lie arms for long reflux. There's only one pair of stills in the John Paul Distillery in Goa. It's a 15,000 liter wash still and a 9,500 liter spirit still, relatively small. But they do come in at the classic numbers. They come in at about 63% for their initial new make, the clear spirit, before they're going to age it. But they will cut it with water before they barrel it, because you're living, again, in the Indian subcontinent where it's very warm and humid. And so they tend to lose water faster than alcohol.
Oh, interesting. So the angel share is a little watery in Goa.
But it's also large. Like we talk about 2% losses to angel share in Scotland, they're talking 10% losses. But it'll also be more water and alcohol. So the ABV can actually rise. You don't want to get too high. It gets really bitter, right? As the alcohol level increases, it'll pull more phenols from the wood. And so the argument is that it ages 3 times faster. That a year in wood in India is like a 1 year in it's like 3 years in India. It's like 3 years in Scotland for 1 year in India. So they don't tend to put age declarations on these whiskeys because they age so quickly. And again, people don't like low numbers. Their rack houses are cool. They're not actually cooled, but they are concrete, steel frame, low stack, like 4 barrels high. And again, they don't stay in very long. They mostly make blends. They make a couple of popular single malts that are reasonably priced, and that is not this whiskey. This idea they call the Zodiac series, which would argue that there's 12 of them. I've only found 2 in the Zodiac series, and really this is the only one. The Mithuna seems to be the one.
Like a serial killer hunter there. It's like I've only found a few in the
I really enjoyed the Zodiac series. Yes, it's quite good. Yes.
But again, you're talking that 7-row barley, and then sort of typical distillation method, unpeated, no chill filtration. I'm wondering if they put color in it because it's really dark. Like that's surprisingly dark. Yeah. It was aged in American virgin oak. Nobody says for sure how long. They think it's only a couple of 3 years. And then it's got a finish in bourbon casks. Again, classical, inexpensive approach to doing things. Those would be 250 liter casks. Maybe only a year in that. So let's have a taste. 58%. So there's a nose to this. It's heady. Right? It's a strong alcohol flavor. There's no two ways about that. But then really fruity. Like one of the reasons they call it Gemini is kind of comes at you 2 ways. Like it's so potent, and yet it's really nice on the tongue. It's very warming. This is good.
It's like you're traveling to Goa.
Yeah. But you wouldn't. It's $300.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yikes.
If you can find
it's a great gift.
It was, and it's exactly how you're going to get it. So the original production was from 2018. I think I got this one in 2020 or 2021 again as a gift, and it's just sat on the shelf. I hadn't tasted it. I had no idea. It's not going to become your favorite whiskey. This is an ideal gift. This is you want to give someone a whiskey they've never had before that's special, right? And you like them a lot because you're about to drop 3 bigs on them. Like that's a lot of money. So I hope you like them, because if you can find one, it's really going to be experience. But will I get another one? No. Will I drink this one slowly? Yeah, you bet.
Yeah. Did you ever figure out who gave it to you?
I haven't.
No idea.
I don't know.
Lost in the mists of time.
People give me a lot of whiskey, man. And normally when I
tell you, it was me.
I'm pretty sure it's not. Pretty sure.
I thought it was me.
Pretty
sure it was me. I don't know.
One of the things, sometimes someone gives me a very nice whiskey that I know whiskey pretty well. So it's like, well, that's an expensive whiskey. Thank you very much and put it aside. I did not know with this one.
Yeah.
Right. So I just put it on. Oh, it's an Indian whiskey. That's cool. Put it on the shelf. Right?
Interesting, but
give it a bottle of Amaret and so forth. Then I sort of take it off and I look at it and I start to research it. And I'm like, oh my.
This is special.
Oh, I mean, arguably, this is about as expensive as Indian whiskey gets.
Wow.
Right. Like,
do you have a lot of bottles like that in your whiskey closet?
Beginning to wonder. Like,
you might want to look into the how many bottles are in there.
I don't know, 100.
Is it like a wine closet or?
Yes, it's in the wine cellar, but they're stacked.
You keep them on the side, or you keep them up?
No, you keep them up, right? You don't need to lay whiskey.
That's because it doesn't need to breathe that you do that.
Yeah. And it's foil sealed and stuff. It's irrelevant.
Right.
That being said, like most of these bottles, and this is one of them, it does have a cork in it, right? Like the base of it is actually cork. So I have had a whiskey bottle dried out. The cork tore, and now and I have. Because of the wine tools, I have the kit to extract the damage and filter and yeah, surprise. That's a surprise for me. Like, I don't know.
Merry Christmas.
I have nothing. Years
ago.
Yeah, it's an odd duck. No two ways about it. Somebody went to great lengths to find me a very unusual whiskey, enough that I didn't know it was that unusual.
He has many friends.
I thought I'd share it with all of you. I don't like flashing expensive whiskey on the show. It's
I wouldn't hesitate.
I was going to say,
we're living through you, Richard.
Yeah, well,
vicariously.
I haven't been back up to Scotland for a while, but I often go and grab like a ton 1509 or something really where you have to go to the distillery to get it. And they are not inexpensive, but they are very, very special. And I think you've tried one of my ton 1509s.
I did.
Mr. Thurrott.
I think the thing that remember is this is not a buying guide. This is a tour of the greatest whiskeys in the world, or the worst.
Yeah, the past 2 years of doing this, the industry has been shifting, or at least I've been more aware of how it's changed. And I'm a sucker for craftsmen. I like people who work hard to make a thing they care about. Doesn't matter where it is. And you've only seen me angry about whiskey when I found people who are not that, who are being pretentious about making a terrible product that's expensive, right? And I'll happily indict them when I find it. But when I find someone who's made something really great, I really want to celebrate it.
And again, a lot of us are enjoying them through you. I'm not going to run to the store and buy Mithuna, but we enjoy it through your stories and your tasting and all of that. So don't hesitate.
Been a lot of fun for me.
Break out the good stuff.
Been a crazy year. That's kind of how I felt when I realized what I had in my cupboard here was like, oh, that's not a bad way to end the year. Something special.
I have donned the sorting hat so I can tell you who's naughty and who's nice. And
Slytherin for the lot of you.
I just want to say what a year this has been with Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell. And I think I speak for all of you winners and dozers. This has been a great show for the year 2024, and will continue to be a great part of our network into 2025. And we're very happy about that. I hope you both have a wonderful holiday.
You too.
And a happy new year. We will next week be doing the best of.
So wait, we're not doing this until
January 8th.
January,
we got 3 weeks off, dude.
Yeah.
God damn. I'm going to forget how to do it.
You're going to have to phone me. I know it's going to happen. On Wednesdays, we're just going to phone each other and talk about stuff just to get it over.
Hey, what's going to That could be a club special.
All I know is I missed 2 shows in a row this year, and it really upset Paul.
Was in a state. This is his social life. I mean, let's get this straight here. No, what are you doing for the holidays, Richard?
We're staying at a friend's apartment who's out of town for the week.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that. Yeah.
My youngest is, I think I've sort of said obliquely, my youngest is pregnant. So due in March, first grandchild.
Will this be your first?
This will be the first grandchild.
Yeah, that's awesome.
How exciting! You guys must be thrilled.
My kids'
grandmothers are losing their minds.
I don't see what the difference is.
Yeah, the grandmothers are losing their minds. So I'm trying to stay calm because nobody else is. But yeah, I'm super.
Do they know if it's a boy or girl
yet?
A girl.
Yeah, it's a girl.
Oh, it's so great. Well, I expect many pictures
Yeah, I mean, my daughter is a far more private person than I am. So one of the conversations when this was coming up was, we really don't want this on social media.
Okay.
I'm like, listen, I make a lot of shows. So
it's hard. I have to tell you, it's been hard for my family over the 45 years I've been doing. I've been broadcasting, 50 years broadcasting, because when you're on the air that much, it's hard not to talk about your life and the people in your life. And there haven't been a lot of secrets. I've had the talking to from almost every member of my family saying, would you knock it off?
Yeah.
Usually in the form of Dad.
I'm sorry. I'm very proud of you guys. Anyway, have a wonderful Christmas with the family, Richard. How about you, Paul? Are you going to be up here?
We'll be here through New Year's, and then we go to Mexico in the middle of January.
And one of those weeks is going to be with us in Mexico. Too.
Yeah, we're going to meet up with Richard and Stacy and PV, as we call it, south of the border.
I love PV. Oh,
PV's
you're
great.
going to have a great time. That's a wonderful part of the country.
So we'll be doing the show together from the deck of
Puerto Vallarta,
third floor suite.
How wonderful.
Yeah. I guess I could arrange us to be having massages during the show. That would be a thing. Yeah, we'd do that.
Nice.
And then I said, well,
like a dog, like just kicking my leg, like in the back.
Well, have a great Christmas, Paul.
Thank you.
Love
too.
to your family too. And
You too?
well, I guess we'll just all see each other in the new year.
Yeah, for sure. You're going to do something fun.
So
I presume everybody consolidates on you, Leo, for Christmas. That you're the hub.
Oh gosh, why would you assume that?
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong. Okay, maybe
No, I'm not a hub. I'm a spoke.
Yeah. So you'll be going somewhere. You'll go somewhere.
You've done
Christmas Eve, we're going to make. I am going to cook, and I ordered a lovely turkey from the poultry capital.
All right. Yeah. So they are descending on you.
So a few will descend, not very many. And then Lisa and I, we become big at opting out. And so Christmas Day, we bought tickets to go see the new Nosferatu movie in the theater. And
just in keeping with the holiday spirit.
Vampires.
Merry
Christmas. Sister says, wait a minute, we're having Christmas at our house. We'll be there after the movie.
There you go.
We'll see what the runtime is. I don't know. We'll see how we're doing.
Movie.
I'm not on it. We had the house that everybody came to, and it got old. Every so often we do a Christmas out of the country just to break up the path. People get a little entitled after a while.
I think that's kind of what happened.
We're going to go to Costa Rica, and then and then the next year
I've always wanted to fly on Christmas Day. That was my thing. Like, no one flies on Christmas Day. Let's just go. At the time to Europe.
How was that, Paul?
I never did it.
Oh. Yeah.
The day to fly is the 4th of July. Because you can see fireworks all the way across the country. It's kind of fun.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. It turns out if you fly over Syria, you can see that any day.
If you just are in Mexico any day of the week, you can see that. It's just it's just the way it is.
Thank you, my friends. Have a wonderful few weeks off. Have a happy holiday. We'll see you in the new year, January 8th. We do the show every Wednesday, except for the next 2 Wednesdays, at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 1900 UTC. You can watch us live thanks to the club. We now have 8 different streams. Discord for the club TWiT members, YouTube, Twitch, Kick, X, TikTok. Actually, might not be TikTok in the new year. We'll see. LinkedIn and Facebook. That's your choice. But you don't have to watch live. We do welcome the hundreds of people watching live right now. Hello, everybody. The best thing to do really is to just download a copy. You can get it from the website, twit.tv/WW. There's a link there to the YouTube channel. That's where you can, select a little clip. If you want to share that with somebody else, we'd appreciate it. Great way to share the show. Or just subscribe in your favorite podcast client. You'll get a copy as soon as we're done. Makes it easy. It's free. And it's fun. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, especially the Club TWiT members. I hope you all have a happy holiday. We'll see you next year. Remember, best of next week on Windows Weekly. Take care, guys.
You too.
I do want to ask a little tiny favor from all of you, not just Club TWiT members. Every year, you may remember, we do a survey of our audience. We want to get to know you a little bit better. It helps us with sales because we can say, as we often do, 70% of our audience are IT decision makers, that kind of thing. It's a very quick survey. Shouldn't only take you a couple of minutes. twit.tv/survey. This is the new 2024-2025 survey. We're starting a little bit earlier this year than we usually do. It just helps us, and it would be doing us all a favor if you did it. So in between shows, maybe twit.tv/survey. Thank you so much.